The main character is a charming and sweet child who grows surrounded. And here our history begins in a majestic great mansion. The main character feeds a little girl, but she refuses to eat with indignation. She has now plunged into the world of fictional novels about raising children. In the novel, the antagonist is a spoiled baby who always gets everything he wants. She is the only daughter of a mysterious and dark family. Bullying from servants and day and night became a common thing. Each meal turns into a play. It takes away dishes, expresses its dissatisfaction, and breaks dishes. She is known for constantly banishing her stepmother. The main character of the book about raising children feeds the villain with porridge, smiling. But a little girl throws a toy into her and shouts, "From here!" This little girl, the future villain, is raised as the only daughter of the Rebecca family. The main character retains patience and tenderness. "I'll go as soon as you eat, my little one. Try this dish, okay?" But the girl shakes her head. Little Ririan is offended. "I said I don't like it." Suddenly the girl screamed, "Oh, blood!" Seeing the blood, Riria was a little scared and began to hesitate. Suddenly Riria broke into a cry. "That's why I told you to go." "But you didn't obey." The main character wipes blood out of the forehead and gently says, she thought of herself. "I have already dealt with so many similar children that I was tired. But this girl..." Suddenly, Riria rushed to the ground, crying and shouting, "It's not my fault!" The heroine, covered with despair, closed her face with her hands, thinking, even if he comes, they will not be able to save the terrible nature of this child. It all started 15 days ago. The main character was killed. Her last memory was how she rushed to the street to save the baby, as if she were under someone's charm. Waking up, she was surprised to find she became a Leon in another world. The heroine sat in a carriage. Opposite her was a willful and attractive young man. He noted that she had treated everything before. "But now, Leonia, you have understood your situation." He was the head of Petri family, Duke Ian Petri. The heroine, surprised, asked, "Leon?" In the memory of the heroine emerged the image of Leon. The voices of the past were heard. "If you do not work, stay in the attic." But the man with Petri wanted to buy it, wasn't it? Returning to reality, the man saw the hostess stared at nowhere and asked what had happened. She smiled quickly and replied that everything was okay, just a little bit during the ride. The heroine reflected that this Leon, in whose body I am now, leads a pathetic life and was sold under the guise of a noble lady. The man who purchased it was the Duke from the Petri family. Common rumors about the place where it goes. Servants there disappear. There is a conversation that the family secretly trades people, or the Duke Petri suddenly spoke, which frightened the heroine. "I don't know what rumors you have heard about me, but I will not use power and will not lead you to some questionable places. You can be calm." The Duke's estate of Petri. Her words were so sharp that they almost crashed into the very soul of the main character. She thought what a brazen boldness. How he dared to call me so. However, she kept a gentle smile on the surface and said, "Hi, The main character was stunned. Duke Peter carefully lifted the girl in his arms and said calmly, "Let me introduce you, my daughter, Riri. From today, you will be her mother." The main character was stunned. She smiled and asked the Duke, "Can I know how many mothers she had to me?" In primary history, the most insecure death happened to the third mother who died, glowing on the stairs, trying to escape from danger. If I was in her place, it could be avoided. The Duke Petri neglected, leaving the main character as amazed. She thought painfully, she asked herself, why should this character be like that? Meanwhile, Riri approached his father. The little girl jumped down and shouted angrily, "Another new mother. I'm going away." The Duke gently said, "Okay, you have congratulated it today. You can go." The little girl strongly stated, "I am not going because you allowed, but because she wanted so much." She closed the door roughly, forcing the main character to feel annoying. Duke Petri said, "Come with me." The main character asked, "Good, but where?" "Don't ask, just follow me." "Okay." The Duke returned to ask the heroine whether everything is fine. She quickly gave him a polite smile, assuring that there were no problems. In her thoughts, she jumped out a surprise. The room was ordinary, not a dumplings as she expected. Apparently, he is not the one who conquers romance. Left alone, she remembered that in Rebecca's novel had ambition to become a queen. Although she enlisted with the prince as she dreamed, her cruelty led to the loss of this situation. Looking in the mirror, the heroine sadly said to herself, Leono, your life is so pathetic. What will you do next? After falling on the bed, Leon said, I don't know. Tomorrow's will solve when they appear. From tomorrow, I have to take care of that girl. Let's see who really becomes the winner, Rebecca. Meanwhile, in the Rebecca room, a girl threw a rabbit on the floor and shouted, So angry? New mother, even that. Everything will go smoothly as before. Very smiled and replied, Now everything is clear. Changing the scene. A few days later, the servant said at the Duke's castle that the patrol lasted a whole week. This was undoubtedly necessary. As soon as he went out of his horse, the Duke addressed the Noretsky. How did Riri behave? Did she get along with her new mother until I was missing? The butterfly, stuttering, replied that all is well. The Duke was angry with the main character's room and shouted loudly, Leonikova! She has a quiet breakfast. The Duke exclamedly shouted, What did you do all the week? You never looked into the baby's room and did not even try to worry about her. In contrast to the outrage of the Duke, Lion was so advised that she did not restrain her tears. She exclaimed, Finally, after a week, a person I can talk to. It caught the Duke by surprise. Leon noted that home staff avoided me as if they had agreed in advance. Every time I get out of the room seems to happen something bad. It amazes me even more. No matter how I try to look, I cannot find a girl's room, though he should already come across her. The Duke waved his hand, saying that there is no point in using such words to justify. Leon denied, claiming that it was not an excuse, but a pure truth. She smiled happily and asked, Now, can you show me Riri's room? The Duke led the hero to the Riri room, which impressed with the luxury and the glow, characterizing the uniqueness of the princess from the Petrie family. The Duke spoke loudly to Riri. Father here. Riri, sitting on a bed in irritation, asks why his father appeared. The Duke says, Riri, I brought your mother with me. But the girl only shakes her head. Mother? What mother? I didn't see her a whole week. I don't care where she is and what she does. Leonis Melessen says, It's not that I didn't come to you. Just I couldn't find you. The girl, suddenly angry and angrily says, What is it here at all? Stop showing someone important from you. You like a fool in the hallway. Leon asks seriously, How do you know that I fell in the hallway? You said that you indifferent. It causes the girl to fell and silence. Suddenly the Duke exclaimed, Enough. I ordered you to focus on the girl's care from the first day. Suddenly, a servant approaches the Duke and, apologizing for interruption, says that the matter is important. Duke replies, I know, go immediately. Stroking Riri gently on her head, the Duke said, Riri, your father brought her here so that she can take care of you. Maybe you should try to spend a few days playing with her? Turning, the Duke said to Leona, I will give you another chance. So do nothing unreasonable anymore, Riri cried. Dad, you're already going. I don't want it. Leonore smiled, stroked the girl on her head, and said, Did you hear? From now on, we will live together alone. The girl waved off Leona's hand and said, How dare you to touch me? Returning to the two maids present, she exclaimed, Why are you standing like a dawn? Pointing to Lion, the girl told two maid, If you let this creature come to me, I will not leave that. Leon, with a bitter reflection, thought, What a sharp word and habit to point on the other finger in this baby. But why, in general, they are taught. Suddenly, the passionate silence interrupted the voice. What is the hole? Leon turned and asked, Who is it? It turned out to be an old woman who said sarcastically, Oh, is this our new lady? She worshipped and said, I congratulate you. For the first time, I have the honor of meeting. I am a gazelle, a maid of a young lady. The Duke gave me authority to be responsible for all the cases associated with her. She wondered and said that it seems that a young lady could not get used to the new mother. She even stated that she didn't like the lady anymore. Could you go for a minute, ladies? Leon looked thoughtfully, and although a smile played on her face, she was hiding behind her. She said, Thank you, nurse, for a message, but I still need time to get ready. Leon thought that if the Duke suddenly returns because of it, she would have no words to explain to him her behavior. Leon gently addressed her. If you could help me, Nanny. However, she cut off, exclaiming, Oh, ladies, if the Duke said, how can I not listen? Suddenly, a high priest said, Listen, priests. Throwing a significant look at Riri, she asked, well, the young man. How to do? Leave everything for the lady? I immediately shouted, who allowed you to release my nanny? Get out of here immediately. Leon just smiled and replied, I did not order the nanny to go. I need to ask the elders differently. If you need something, not a fall, but calmly tell me. Well, Riri, more and more angry, clenching her teeth, said, you are a hateful creature. Madame, a nanny suddenly said, a young lady should not do what she did not like. Hearing her words, Leonia suddenly remembered what the Duke said to meet her. I have to tell you something, even if it is only a little. Leon, frightened, felt that everything would not end there, and she would not just be expelled. Riri looked at her with a glance that seemed to say, she would soon give up. Leon suddenly clapped his fists with determination and said, but I do not force her. I just teach her to do everything right. Excessive indulgence will not contribute to her development. I hope the nanny will understand it. She smiled gently and added, I don't care whether she is a duchess or not. My task is good to take care of her. The nanny smiled cunningly and said, I understand, lad. You are right. I will go. If I need, just call. Leon watched the nanny moving away and thought that this woman had caused her a feeling of discomfort. Leon sat in front of a little mistress and gently said, Riri, if you do not like to look at me, do not necessarily. But I will visit you every day in the room. I always want to know, why are you hating me? Is it only because I am unpleasant? However, the girl is silent. Leon rises, deciding that this is enough for today. Asking more would be too for a girl. But why is it such a complex character when she has everything? After all, I grew up in a shelter without my parents, deprived of many benefits. The little girl suddenly said, have you not left the governess too? The governess was not mistaken. All are the same. The first mom and the second both fled. You are the same as they. So from the very beginning, you told you not to look like we are close. Leon asked in surprise. Did the nanny say? The nanny, hiding behind the door, listened to every word Riri. Her eyes were burning with incredible rage. On a stormy night, Riri sleeps rest alone in her room, quietly calling his father. Hard breathing, inaudible whisper. Where is Dad? Riri suffers. She has fever. No, excitement will only worsen its condition. Now it is better to focus on vacation and recovery. Suddenly, the door opened and someone entered. The Duke got up and said, you should also rest. Leon exclaimed, wait. Riri said, Riri wants to play, which the Duke immediately agreed. Yes, of course, go. Recognizing a person as his nanny, she asks, where is her father and new mother? There is no one here. The ominous nanny says, our poor lady. The Duke is busy with her duties and your new mother has left because she couldn't stand it. All left you. But don't worry, ladies, I'm next to you. The scene is returning to the present time and Riri says Leonie, the nanny has not been wrong. In fact, you are all the same. My first mother as well as the second mother. Riari agrees. Yes, I agree with the nanny. Very really needs parental tenderness. Understanding the problem, Leonie says, so it is so. You have this opinion about me. So you instructed the servants to make it difficult for me to find your room, right? Very quickly exclaimed, this is my fault. Why are you going to ask? I told them that this was not a nanny forced them. Leon wondered if the nanny could be the one who was standing behind it. A child who does not understand anything is always obeyed by a nanin's word, like a puppet. Two friends entered the room and said, to the owner, it is nice to get acquainted with you. We brought food because it's time to melt for young ladies. Leonis gently turned to a little girl. Rebecca, it's time to lunch. But the girl continued to remain silent, forcing the owner to turn to her again. Rebecca. Suddenly, the girl shouted loudly, I don't want to eat. Leon was surprised, and two maids just smiled. As always, today everything is unchanged. Baroness was probably very impressed, right? The janitors alternately turned to Riri. Pano, you still have to eat. If the Duke knows, we will have problems. Leon was embarrassed and did not know how to do next. Riri lay on the ground, arranging hysterics, shouted, get all! I will eat when I want. The maid explained that this happens during each meal. The young lady refuses to eat and suits hysterics. Asked that the girl ate that morning, the maid replied, only a small snack. Looking at the tray with the cakes in front of her, Leon asked if she was food for Rebecca. The maid agreed. It would be great if the young lady still ate. If we do not feed it ourselves, she refuses to eat. Leon felt helpless and noticed that it was the permission of her to create a problem. The maid with the food trays fell around Riri. Smiling in a pleasure, she asked, "Please eat a young lady. Eat at least a piece." Suddenly, Leon intervened. "Wait, take it and bring it a major dish for a young lady, please." Leon noted that now it is extremely important for Rebecca to maintain a balanced diet and that she cannot be limited to snacks. The maid got up with food, answering, "Clearly." Riri got up rapidly, pointing to Linen, and exclaimed, "Who are you to interfere with my affairs?" Lena kindly and cheerfully replied, "Why are you saying so?" "Now I'm your mom," leaving Riri without words. She smiled and asked, "Did you like you? You don't bother you? Take care of what mom should do." "That is annoying," he answered angrily. At once there was a voice that announced the food brought. Both returned to the door. The maid was about to put food in the place where Ruri sat, but Leon suddenly said, "Oh, not here. Please, here." Pointing on the table and a chair in the center of the room. The Riri's dish was extremely well cooked, well balanced by nutrients, and the appearance of breakfast caused appetite. The dishes were placed on the table, but Riri remained on the floor, turning his back to Leon. She asked, "Are you really not going to eat?" Riri replied, "Eat? Of course, bring here." But Leon denied, "No, if you want to eat, come to the table." A real battle of will began between them. He got up angry and said, "Do you think you can tell me how to have?" "You are only a mercenary who is here for money." Leon did not deny, immediately agreed. "You're right. That's why I can't go." She carefully cut the meat on a plate. The piece looked incredibly appetizing. Riri again uncertainly asked, "You can't go? Are you staying because of me?" "I'm so confusing." A little girl, when mentioning the words of nanny, felt anxious. "Everyone leaves you, ladies." The girl exclaimed, "It's not true." Leon asked in surprise, "Why should I deceive you?" "Really? I didn't leave you. I'm not gonna go and I can't do it." "And now let's eat together." Riri looked at Leon in surprise, and in her gaze there was a clear change. The little girl ran to the dining table. Leaving on a chair, the girl felt the encouraging support of Leon. The girl took a knife and a fork, ready for a meal. Leon smiles and praises, "You've handled well, Rebecca. Now sit down at a table, lunch is already waiting for you." Riri, longing for lunch, said we were not going to leave this place. Leon asks in surprise, "What happened?" The girl replies, "Nothing. Night in the palace." Riri sleeps firmly. The doors to the bedroom are quietly closed with hand. The exhausted Leon goes out and says, "It was so difficult to invest her to sleep. Now you can get back to your room." It was dark like a glass corridor. Leon is crying in despair, not knowing how to return to her room because it is so dark. Suddenly, Leon hears the voice calling her, and it scares her. Suddenly, there is a wild yucca. Leon stutters from shock. The name of the character calls her Duke. It stumbles and almost falls. The Duke immediately picks her up and says, "You seem to be a lot of surprised ladies." He smiles and says, "This is our first acquaintance." "I am a bow." Leon was surprised. Should it be a Duke named Luke? She asked in surprise, "Was it not the Duke of Ian just?" Luke replied, "I got an order from the Duke to accompany you to your room, lady. Please let me hold you." Leon was quietly thinking, what is this situation? Luke accompanied Leon back to her room. It's always like that. It is no longer how many times I passed this way. Leon felt that the atmosphere was radically different from the when she was with Duke Ian. What is the strange feeling? Maybe it's some test? Does the Duke see me secretly? Are you the same beau, right? Leonore asked. He turned cheerfully and smiled. Yes, Lady Leonore. She continued, Luke, what position are you? Luke confidently said, You are curious to know about me, ladies? It is very pleased. He looked like a little puppy that waved his tail joyfully. Luke explained that he is a knight who serves the Duke's family and usually performs the task on his orders. Leon asked once again whether he was serving the Duke as if in personal protection. Luke replied that it was possible, and so, She hesitated. She wanted to know more, but he interrupted, reporting that they had already arrived. Leon thanked him. Luke bowed with a smile and said, "That's the little things. I fulfilled my task. I will come back in the morning. Good night, my lady." Luke turned and left, leaving Leon, who stood and looked after him, thinking. He went. I wanted to ask about his relationship with Duke. It seems that our conversation was interrupted. Leon thought whether Luke's name was mentioned in the original story. She could not mention anything about it. Leon struck herself on the forehead, reassuring. Take yourself in your arms, Leono. Do you lacking anxiety about the future? It's not what I have to worry about. The main thing is to find a way to survive. If so goes on, I can die. Riri replied, Yes, Dad doesn't understand what I really need. He doesn't even ask my opinion. He does everything at his discretion. He was different before, but she has been behaving like a fool lately. She remembered Riri's words. I'll go too. Reflecting quietly, she thought, when I was little, I was lonely. So why do I think about this girl constantly? It was not easy today. And tomorrow, how to make her eat? What do I do? A few days later, Riri began to eat at the dining table. The little girl tasted food with pleasure. Noticing that Leon was looking at her, Riri asked, What are you looking at? Leon replied, You eat alone and I didn't make you. Riri quickly denied, No, it's just me. The owner replied with a smile, Of course, enjoy your lunch. In his mind, he added, As expected, to cope with such stubbornness while eating is a difficult task, but I have my own methods. Strategy 1, find a good moment. Riri, it's time to dine now. Strategy 2, eat together on one chair. She brought Ruya and said joyfully, Let's lunch together today. Riri became completely different, but there is a long road ahead, because the girl avoids vegetables like a plague. And of course, Luke comes every day to accompany me to my room. He shared what a little girl likes. Leon also believes that it is better to keep the maid away from the girl. Riri jumped from the chair, exclaiming, I have already milked. Now I'll go to play. Leon suddenly said, By the way, Riri, you are 5 this year, yes? The girl replied, Leon thought, worried that at this age a girl could eat badly. She said, You're not at all. Riri asked with surprise, I'm not little? Leon confirmed, Yes, for your age you develop very well. Very smiled joyfully and said, So I'm not little. This thought made her smile. Perhaps the girl began to open a little. Leon quickly replied, Your father will soon come back, Riri. Riri suddenly asked, Why don't you go outside? I have already eaten everything. Leon said in surprise, Can I go out? Riri explained, No, it's just like that. I'll let you stay here only today. Leon has fun responded, Okay, I'll do, as you say. Riri suddenly asked, Do you know when my dad returns? Leon has frozen from surprise. There is no Duke now because he went to patrol again. If he could spend some time with the girl before you go, would be much better. I miss him very much. Not worth it, dear. Let's go to the garden, okay? Said the little girl. I will play near the fountain. Standing secretly behind the door, the nanny watched the happening. Cigarette quietly, she left again. She plays. Looks so happy. But this is a fervent feeling that I feel from the beginning. Suddenly, the maid stated, Madam, I prepared some snacks. And many beautiful cakes appeared. Leon sincerely thanked her. Are you me? Yes? The maid gladly replied, Yes. Leon continued, You are always so friendly to me, unlike other maids who don't even talk to me. Maistemard, France. May said, Yes, since your arrival, the young lady has become less annoying. The meals no longer resemble the battlefield. Lion just smiled awkwardly, imagining what difficulties of May she probably faced during that time. The maid continued, Other maids apparently do not communicate with you. Leon asked in surprise why we should be careful with her. May replied, It is rumored to be a very experienced nanny, appointed by the royal family. She enjoys the Duke's trust. It is said that when she arrived, the former nanny had to give way to a place and was forced to become a maid that was actually equal. Leon thought. Since she was appointed a royal family, the Duke had to trust her. May continued her joyfully. That is why you do not even imagine how relief is that you are directly opposed to the nanny. Leon noted that due to the frequent absence of the Duke, it was not difficult for her to seize power in the house. Suddenly, Lion looked around and exclaimed. May asked, "What happened, ladies?" Lion exclaimed, "Riri? Where did she disappear?" May, in a panic, realized that there was no young lady. "Sorry, I was too busy talking," she said. But Lion calmly replied, "No, she was with another maid. She is here. It brought Riri to the garden, so I will go to look for her." May strongly added, "I will help you find a lady." Two together searched Riri in the garden, shouting, "Lady Rebecca, where are you?" They could not find her in Nide. Where could she go? May noted. It's really strange. The young lady never goes far while walking. Did she go to the mayor? Sometimes when she gets lost, she wanders in the garden maze, May. Leon was surprised to exclaim, "This is what, the garden maze?" "What is it, huge?" Suddenly, Mesh exclaimed, "Young lady." Riri stood nearby. Leon ran up quickly, speaking worriedly. "I was looking for you everywhere." "Have you been here? Why are you here?" Leon had fun to return together, but they were not weighed. Instead, they turned to May, saying, "I go to my room," and then led me with me. Raria turned to May, leaving Leonore in amazement. The next day, Lion approached Raria and asked, "What will we play today?" But the girl sat, turning her back, and was silent. Leon sat next to and asked, "You don't even answer me?" Riari said sharply, "Don't like." "So stop talking. It annoys," the owner said with pain. "Have we returned to the beginning?" She thought with optimism. "Everything is fine if I visit it every day because look, the little bunny is very sad for Rira. Soon we will be close again." A little later. "Today I brought your favorite treats." Leon was certain that everything would go according to plan. But who would have thought that nothing would work out as designed? She realized with sadness that she mistakenly believed in their rapprochement. It seems that the distance between them is only increasing. Suddenly, "It looks like you have a lot of mind today." The voice owner shuddered, looking up. It was a bow. "When did he appear here?" Leon, a little shining, said, "Give at least a sign." Luke replied, "Sorry, I came to take you away, but when I saw you in the room, thought where the young lady went." Going into the garden, Luke said, "Please do not be offended by a young lady." Leon asked, "Why?" Luke replied, "She may seem stubborn from the outside, but inside the young lady has experienced a lot of pain." Leon was enthusiastically noticed. "Looks you understand Rebecca well," Luke continued. "This is because I protect and look after her from her birthday." At what point did they find themselves in the labyrinth garden? Leon was silently thinking that all this time she followed Luke, not noticing how far they went. At this point, Leon was suddenly realized, wait for Riri to change? Until I could meet her, the nanny remained inactive. The stormy night. Someone raced on horseback through the rain. The rider on the horse, breaking through the rain with a red package in your hands. Standing on the door of the room of Vera, the nurse suddenly exclaims, "Your mercy, you arrived." The Duke removes the hat, opening his personality. This is the man who is traveling in the rain. He asks, "How Riri?" "I found medicine." The nurse asks what to do next, because the young lady has just fallen asleep. Watering with water, Juk replies, "Indeed?" When she wakes up, "Give her this medicine. I'll be back in the morning." The nurse carefully suggested, "Your mercy, in fact, a young lady does not want to see anyone now." The nurse carefully asked, "Is this true?" After the Duke left, she began to secretly conceive something bad, and her eyes shone with a sinister intention. Suddenly, someone reported, "Mr. Lady Lion wants to see you." The Duke fell and said, "Let it come in." During a walk in the garden, dew shone. "Do you suspect it is a nanny's hands?" Leon replied, "I'm not quite sure, but my intuition suggests." "You reject that saying, just impossible." They chose the most capable nurse. When they entered the labyrinth garden, Leon said, "It seems that you have great confidence in the royal family." The Duke replied, "I have a close relationship with His Majesty Emperor." The Duke recalled the last conversation with His Majesty. Last time you handled perfectly. Sorry that you became the target of political enemies, but thanks to you, I am calm. That is why I turned to my longtime friend. The Duke replied, Your Majesty, just order, and I will do all the dirty deeds of the Empire on your behalf. Emperor handed Duke a little piece of paper with the words, The goal is here. I rely on you again. It was hidden by the truth of Petra's family. At the present moment, Leon and the Duke were walking in the labyrinth garden. The Duke looked at Leon and asked, To tell you about it now? Leon smiled and said, But you are very worried about Riri, however? You have been following me all the time. The Duke said awkwardly, Because I suspect you. When they walked, they suddenly heard someone called, Miss, did you come as promised, right? It was the voice of the nurse. She quickly ran and exclaimed, I also want to eat these cookies. But the main character calmly replied, No, first get your food. You want cookies? Give me a promise. She held a small glass bottle in her hand and said, I said, A young lady, you need to drink it to promote health. I will call the servant to bring you a little snack. But first drink it before bedtime. Riri asked, Will the nanny not come? Why are we constantly meeting here from yesterday? The answer was sad. Unfortunately, because you did not listen to me, I can't go into your room. I promise to always be near, though where you, remember? If that woman remains, she will take my nanny place and I will no longer be able to be with you. Hearing this, I quickly ran up, grabbing a nanny dress, and shouted with anxious, No, you can't leave, nanny. She wiped the tears of Riri carefully, saying, Everything is fine, a young lady. If you follow my advice, everything will be fine. Now go to the Duke. Say that that woman offended you and let him get her. She smiled slyly. If you don't want to be left, be an obedient girl, right? I hesitated, because this woman did not do me anything wrong. She is not like others. The nanny was angry. How many times I have to repeat for you to finally listen? I'll leave you because you are indecisive. After a while, the Duke appeared. Raria offended you, he said. This scene was observed by Leon and the Duke. Leon thought, However, the nanny thought of something all this time. I hoped that I was wrong, but it was she who manipulates the girl. Using the defenselessness of the child to go, Leon was also afraid of being expelled from the shelter. Therefore, she understands this condition perfectly. Standing next to the Leon, the Duke compresses trembling fists. He is overwhelmed by the rage. Riri hesitates, but the nanny assured that she would not leave her. Maybe it's true. Suddenly, the Duke runs up rapidly, grabs it firmly, and exclaims, What do you get away, do you? She looked around and says, Duke. She stutters. I am only... But here Riri intervenes, shouting, Father! Father! The woman you brought offended me. Duke is surprised. Really? Riri confirms. Yes. I didn't even see a nanny, and I was not allowed to eat. She calmly replied that it was a discipline. To raise a child well, you need to follow the discipline. I will never forgive the one who hurt my daughter. Pushing her hand, the Duke said, Your actions will be subjected to a royal family. Take it away. The knight replied, Yes, Your Highness. When Riri saw that her nanny wanted to take away, she shouted, Dad, you say? Why are you so with her? No, she promised to be near me. Don't take her. A little girl burst into tears. If she leaves, no one will stay near me. What will I do if you take it away? Riri's tears caused sympathy in Leon. To pick it up is for your good. Now it may be unclear to you, but the Duke confidently replied, I will leave this question at the discretion of the royal family. So far, hold it in the dungeon. I will write a letter to the royal family. Leaning a little, the Duke asked, Riri, she always treats you? Did you do everything you said? But Riri remained silent. The Duke looked at her carefully and then slightly touched her head. It seems, he said, you have a temperature again. Returning to Leon, he ordered, Take her back to Haru. The Duke suddenly noticed a bottle that the nanny dropped on the ground. The scene changes, and we find ourselves in Riri's room where it was returned. Leon said, Riri always relied on the nanny. For the child, the closest person is the most important. Therefore, she trusts the nanny more than you. The Duke asked, alarmed, She trusts me so little? Leon replied, Of course. I want to ask you, did you ever show you care about her? At least once? The Duke replied that he always tried to do everything possible for Riri. The owner noted that he did not know what she had to go through. Looking at the Duke, Leon said she wanted only one. If you are really her father, please show her care. Do not keep everything in you. Leon left, leaving the Duke alone with Riri, who slept firmly. The Duke quietly put his mother's stone on her pillow and whispered, Good night, Riri. The next morning, Leon, in surprise, asked, She refused to eat again? After that day, Riri was constantly rising, and she refused to eat or drink. Her nanny was for her. The sudden loss of such an important person has become a heavy blow to Riri. The Duke returned the former nanny to take care of her. The woman had a gentle luck, but Riri's condition almost did not improve. It is not possible to watch Riri continues to starve. Leon decided to feed her on her own. But Riri threw a toy in Leon and shouted to disappear. Taste this dish, okay? But the girl just shook her head, saying that she was not tasteful. Suddenly, she screamed. Her eyes expanded from horror when she saw the blood flowing down the owner's head. I will send money to your family as an apology. Leon, are you surprised? Money. Riri does not apologize, and you are even ready to send money to settle everything, she shouted with disgust. Why I have to apologize? I didn't do anything wrong. The Duke calmly replied, That's right. I have already apologized on her behalf, so this issue was closed. Besides, Riri was not yet fully recovered, so it is just a sick child mistake. Leon was angry. What does he say? Leon denied that it is impossible to justify yourself with youth or illness. If she does not even realize her mistake, it will repeat it in the future. He smiled boldly, pleased with the result. They closed the door, leaving the owner in the rage. The apple from the apple tree falls near. The next morning, Savort was very frightened and went out of the language. What is the hammer? She quickly hides behind a chair and asks with a shout, Do you intend to hit me with this hammer? Do you plan to take revenge? I use it for that, she replies, pointing to a delicious cake. Lion uses a hammer to break the crust of the cake, while Riri watches with surprise. She enjoys the filling with great pleasure. Vera watched, licking his appetite. Vera angrily clapped her teeth and said, It's unfair. She shouted, I don't want it. I will ask my nanny to do something else. The nanny replied in confusion, Miss, this snack was prepared by Lady Lion herself. We, the servants, do not know how to do it. Lion had a pleasure with chocolate. Thoughts flashed. In this world, they do not make chocolate like this. And only I know how to create this delicacy. She finally agreed. Okay, I'll eat my food. Good. I have never promised that I will give it to you right away. She screamed, A liar, you cheated me. Leon calmly replied, I didn't deceive you. Leonis added with a smile, There is one condition. Make me a good promise and I will give you this cake. Very immediately replied, I don't want to. Why should I be a princess of Petri family? The owner turned away. Then I do not want to give you this cake. A little girl went away with indignation, but Leon said calmly, You really want to tell him? If so, you will not get my cakes anymore, Leon continued. The next cake I bake will be special. Imagine how you cut a delicate chocolate cake and a thick chocolate sauce leaks from it. Riri has started drawing. The little girl succumbed, sighed. Well, I agree. I promise that I will eat properly. Leon smiled, satisfied. They caught the little finger, legalizing the promise. Leon, pleased, said, If you promise me, I will not be angry anymore. From now on, if you talk to me gently, it will be much more enjoyable. She returned to her place rapidly. She tasted the stuffing. Leon asked impatiently, Well, how is you? Delicious? Ria replied. Well, not so good. The cake that our chef prepared is delicious. Hearing this, Leon said, Then I will not cook cakes anymore. Well, I plan to do it for dinner, but if you don't like it, prepare. I allow you, Riar said quickly. Especially, Leon stood in front of Raria's room, thinking, hoping that this time the girl would eat a little bit. She could not constantly lure her family treats. She said quietly, Rira, it's me. I go. Let's dinner together. Opening the door and going inside, she expanded her eyes in surprise. Leon sat down to take the sheet from the bunny. The letter was written. Sorry. Riri Shilly confessed that by this point only the nanny was on her side. She thought she had been released because of Leon, so she always treated her badly. Sorry, me, I was wrong, she said with regret. Leon was amazed at Rir's unexpected reaction. I could call her a mom, so please do not leave me. The protagonist was surprised by Riri's words. She smiled happily. Hugging Riri gently, she said, I understand, Riri. I will always be with you. I become your mom. Thanks for your apology, dear Riri. Suddenly, the girl fainted, forcing Leon to shout in a panic. Riri, wake up, Riri! Being without good, Riri whispered, calling her mother. Sitting by the bed, Leon was thinking that Riri was not a bad baby. She just wanted love. Just as Leon herself when she was abandoned in an orphan, without any support and even without birth certificate. Gently caressing Riri's head, Leon was quietly thinking about whether she could change this girl. Suddenly, the Duke broke into the room, shouting Riri's name loudly. Frightened, Leon hastily rose and turned to the Duke. The Duke asked about Riri's condition with concern. Leon replied that she had given the girl medication, but the temperature did not fall. It seems that they will have to watch around her all night. The Duke went quietly and touched his hand to the head of Riri's. Suddenly, the Duke gritted his teeth annoyed and said, It is still not working. Leono, leave the estate immediately. Accident, Leon exclaimed. The Duke explained that the more Riri is worried, the higher her temperature, which can lead to seizures. We still do not know the reason, but the last few days it has been feeling well. However, with your appearance, its temperature rises more often, Leon asked with indignation. Do you want to say it's all because of me? The Duke strongly stated, If it is not your fault, then whose? I do not care what happened. Her illness is because of you, Leonore said indignantly. What do you say? The Duke turned away and strongly added, The sooner you leave the estate, the better. I don't want to see how she suffers. Leon, with annoyance, clenched his fists, mutilating, What's the devil? The Duke retired, leaving Leon alone with Riri. She thought, Is it really true? Luke smiled gently and said, If you continue, ladies, then get sick. Let you take you to your room. Please rest a little. Leon smiled and thanked. Lucas suddenly asked, Madame Leon, you are very upset because of the Duke's words, isn't it? She just smiled sadly. Inside, Leon was boiling with anger, and the only thing she wanted was to hit the Duke. Leon asked, What do you mean? Suddenly, she remembered the words of the Hatches. Lady Leonon, think well what you really want. The next morning, the Duke walks the corridor. Yes, when Mrs. Riri became ill, Madame did not leave her all night, taking care of her health. Friendly words about Leon forced Jukenda to think about whether it should be released or left for Riri. It may be better to leave it. Initially, the Duke purchased it through one single thing, her platinum hair. What she said forced the Duke to remember Riri's biological mother. Suddenly, the door knocked. The Duke said, Come in. The servant entered the room and reported, The Duke, we received the results of the analysis of the drug composition you mentioned. This is the bottle left by the caregiver. The Duke calmly replied, Speak. The servant reported, These medicines contain toxins that have worsened the condition of the ladies. We have found out that such a drug is sold in the black market. Duke asked, Who is currently running the black market? The servant replied, This is Avilda's family, sir. The Duke remembered and thought, Is not the family behind the royal court? Then he wondered, How did they do with a breadwinner? The servant replied that the royal court decided to bring her back to his ranks and do the business in person. The Duke got up and asked if that was all. The servant replied, No, Duke. His Majesty Emperor wants to meet you personally. Speaking silently, the Duke said, I need to do at home. Write a letter of His Majesty. Explain that I cannot comply with his order. The servant barely nodded and quietly replied, Yes, I understood. In a small room at a round table sat two influential men, turned face to each other. The Duke Petrie, with a polite smile, replied, Nice to meet. He laughed and noted that, unlike the old man, the Duke looks very healthy. I hope you will continue to make efforts to achieve big things in the future. He heard that a new member appeared in the Duke's house. Watching the silent Duke of Petrie, he realized that the black market was gaining momentum without external intervention. If you now establish a relationship with Petrie's family, which is closest to the emperor, It will open the way to my strength and influence. He continued, noting that it is important for the family to have strong support. How can we help you? The Duke asked in surprise. He cunningly said, That's right. I want to introduce you to one person, the Duke. The Duke called Astra, and a beautiful, beautiful girl with black like night hair appeared in front of him. Congratulations, Duke of Petrie. I am Astra, the eldest daughter of the Avalder family. Petrie replied with courtesy. Glad to get acquainted with you, Lady Astro. The Duke thought that they came to me, including she. It looks like I can find out about this poisonous grass faster than expected. Leon was surprised. You really won't eat? You need to eat to recover faster. But he said stubbornly, I do not like it. I will not eat. Leonid is probably difficult for her to find appetite because she has been spending several days in bed. Suddenly, she cast her gaze on the balcony. They decided to organize a small outdoor holiday. Riri sat down at the table and asked, What is it here? Leon replied, I prepared it all for you, Riri. Then the owner put a large chocolate cake in front of the little girl. Riri's eyes were widely revealed with surprise and admiration. The chocolate I mentioned earlier looks appetizing, right? Riri's eyes shone and she replied, Yes. Suddenly, Riri asked, Can I really eat it? Leon replied, Of course, I baked this cake specifically for you. Riri sadly said, But you always said that first you need to eat, and then, goodness, why are you so easy to eat it now? Maybe it's because I got sick. Leon was amazed by Riri's words. Suddenly, she smiled and said, No, I just wanted to apologize to you. Riri was surprised and asked, To apologize to me? Why? Leon smiled gently and said, Do you have eyes when you like something, but lately I have done nothing for you. So sorry again. Don't worry, just enjoy the food, okay? Leon smiled happily and said, Okay, thank you. Suddenly, the voice was heard. Oh, unexpected. Mrs. Rebecca is here. Riri and Leon shuddered and returned to look. A beautiful girl appears in front of them and says, Hi, lady. Leon is instantly picked up and asks, Who are you? The girl smiles brightly and says, I am Ostro. I am here because I want to get to know you closer, ladies. Besides, I have a special relationship with Duke Ian. Leon is anxious. Special relations with Duke? Riri runs up and clings to the main character's dress. Seeing the cake that Riri eats, the girl exclaims, Oh, a tea party for the most important lady in the Empire is a little modest, isn't it? Her words were incredibly angry with Leon, and the maid wept silently. I tried sincerely, she said. She exclaimed with the fury, Get out of here, ugly. The higher your position, the more careful you should pick up words. Noticing this, Leon stood before Ririan and asked, It seems you are familiar with the Duke. What can be useful here? She confidently replied, Oh, did you not hear? I am here as a bride, which is perfect for the Duke. Leon was surprised to hear the word bridegroom. Riri looked back and exclaimed, Our father, a party with a mother. But what is the news about the groom? Father, can you pick it up? This chocolate party is only 3 for us, right? The Duke looked at the half-eaten chocolate cake and said, Riri, let's postpone the party for later, okay? Looking at Leon and another girl, the Duke ordered, You are 2, follow me. In the Duke's premises, he noted that he was strange. You're the first person to whom my daughter ever expressed sympathy, Leon answered sharply. I did not suspect that you were so narrow. The Duke asked, What? Leon vigorously continued, Didn't you teach your daughter to do whatever she pleases? The Duke said carelessly, She will soon get worse. She remembered Riri's happy face when she said, Mom has apologized many times. Otherwise, Riri will eat well. And also from now, if my mom will bring me delicious cakes, I'll say her. It strengthened her in determination. I will not go anywhere because I promised to become a mother of Riri. The Jew looked at her silently and said that the decision was behind her, but she would regret it. Lady Astra, standing behind, watched everything and thought something. Suddenly, one of the servants exclaimed, Lady Riri, you can't run so easy. It scared everyone, and they came back to see what happened. Lady Riri, entrance you are forbidden. Everyone was surprised. Riri, Riri said angrily, If my father is offending my mother, I will arrange hysteria here. Sitting opposite his daughter, the Duke asked, Is a woman really so wonderful? Riri sincerely replied, Yes, I like to have. The Duke asked Riri why. Riri muttered nervously, It's through Mom. The little girl suddenly exclaimed, Ah, because my mother gave me chocolate. They both froze, hearing about chocolate. The Duke calmly noted that when it comes to it, a servant could also give you chocolate. Riri replied, But Leon was the first to cook delicious food for me. The Duke was struck and stunned by Rari's words. Leon, worried, exclaimed with tears in her eyes. The little girl ran up and hugged Leon for a dress, saying, The little girl looked at Leon with her big, sad eyes. Mom, please stay. Don't leave me. Leon got strongly and said, Riri, enough. But Riri stubbornly denied, I'm indifferent. I don't want to. My dear mother goes. Watching Riri, the Duke with anxiety thought that she seems to have risen again. Slightly leaning, he gently said, Rio, now go with the servant and wait for us outside. Okay? It's an adult's business. Riri strongly stated, I will never leave my mother. He closed the door gently. Left alone, the Duke sighed, holding his head, and began to remember everything that had just happened. Riri said, Dad, my chocolate party with my mother. Duke smiled, realizing that he was the light chocolate he immediately recognized. The scene changes to the private room of Ruri. The little girl fell asleep in Leonore. Leonore thinks, she looks very tired. Fortunately, the heat is not as strong as I was afraid. Thank God. Suddenly, Lady Ooster appeared, expressing incredible nonsense. Children's feelings change quickly, and she does not even understand it. And now it contradicts me. Are you going to become a duchess? You are just from a poor, small Marquis family. Leon turned her head in surprise, thinking that having such a soulless family as her, the images were probably not affected. But her character is just awful. Is this her real face? She leaned and said, When the time comes, please take care of my baby. Unbearable stepmother. She added with a fake smile, Mrs. Riri, to the next meeting. I hope you will like my chocolate next time. Leon suspected something strange. She did not expect changes about the third wife in the original story. What has changed? She suddenly realized that it could be a sign of changes in the original story. The scene goes to the Leon room. Smiling, sleeping with her. Sleeping. Leon was worried about Riari. Are you fine? It's old and tight room and the bed is too small. You're better to sleep in your room. However, Riari confidently replied, Everything is fine with me. Yes, there is an old room, an unpleasant smell, and the bed is tight. Leon was happy to embrace Riri and said, My dear Riri, even your words are so cute. Riri, with a tricky smile, replied, I was always sweet. In the whole world, there will be no baby who would match me. Leon gladly agreed. Yes, my Riri is the sweetest and most beautiful in the world. Leon asked in surprise. Indeed? What is the name of this bunny? Riri mysteriously replied. Interestingly? Leon could not restrain her astonishment. Haster, Riri looked carefully at the rabbit and said, He is not good. Because he lacks the filling when you hug it, he becomes smaller. So he is not sympathetic at all. Riri continued, This ugliness created for me my mother who gave birth to me. Lena was amazed. Riri looked sadly at the rabbit and said, Mom, please, do not create these things for me. Your presence is already enough. You are always engaged in making unnecessary things. Seeing that Riri was upset, Leon turned to her with anxiety. Riri. But the girl replied, I said, everything is fine with me. The girl suddenly smiled and said, You will not go beside me, so everything will be fine with Riri. Riri hid her face in the heroine's chest. Leon was suddenly understood. Not surprisingly, there are so many plush rabbits in Riri's room. So you didn't need them. Suddenly, she looked up and said loudly, But my mother was different. The owner gently asked, Do you think so? And what would you do if I was like other mothers or became as stupid as your father? What Riri just said was a lot of surprise to Leon. Having rushed, Riri quickly hid behind her back and hinted at, added, Don't understand me wrong. I didn't say that I like... Leon laughed and asked, Really? She leaned and whispered to the bunny, Thank you. In her dream, a little girl smiled happily. Watching Riri sleeping calmly, Leon thought that she wanted to help the girl get better. Her fate was determined by several strokes of the pen, and Leon sought to change it so that Riri would not complete her life tragically. When the girl grows up, she wants to protect her pure heart. Looking back, Leon feels something strange. Previously, the whole original plot was clearly in her memory, but she cannot remember it lately. In the end, she also slowly fell asleep. Both slept firmly, gently hugging each other. Suddenly, Leon woke up the voice calling Madame. She realized that she was the voice of her nanny, who stood behind the door and reported that the Duke was looking for a young lady and Madame, and looked very excited. The Duke is waiting in the rear room's room. Leon turned Rira into her room, and while they were walking, Rira complained about the situation, saying she wanted to sleep. The Duke cast his gaze on Leon, who held his hands firmly near Rear. He leaned down and stroked Rear on his head, asking, "Are you sleeping well?" Riri politely replied, "Yes, father. Why did you call me?" The Duke replied, "I wanted to give you a gift." Riari was surprised. "Gift?" The Duke removed the fabric, discovering the table piled with gift boxes and chocolate hairs. Riri and Leon were impressed so much that their mouths remained wide open. Suddenly, someone calls the Duke Emperor. "I have to find you." The Duke realized that for some time he deliberately avoided something, but it did not bring success. He turned to the servant, saying that he understood and gave him the majesty that he would certainly come. Riri, on the verge of tears, says, "No, I no longer need gifts. Please don't go." The Duke remembers the words of faith. "I don't need a gift, so please don't go, father." The Duke said awkwardly, "That's what I can't reject. I will go short and get back soon." The Duke came out, quietly closing the door before the rage is upset. Leon exclamedly exclaimed, turning to Riri. She threw a hair to the ground, breaking it into pieces. With tears in Riri's eyes, she said, "I don't need these stupid rabbits like you. I just want to be with you." Leon came and reassured Riri. She thought maliciously. At first, everything went well, but in the end, he spoiled everything. What could be so urgent? She leaned and gently said, "Riri, let's make chocolate cookies." Riri asked, "Chocolate cookies?" Leon replied, "Yes, true, let's make them together." Leon raised a baking tray and said, "Now let's burn them." Riri replied, "Yes." A man stood near the plate. Riri ran and exclaimed with enthusiasm, "Dad." The man turned and said, "Miss..." Riri was disappointed. "What is it?" "It's no other like a bow." Leon, surprised. "Luco, what are you doing here?" Leon said in surprise, "This is a magical stone. For the first time, I see him so close." Leon asked, "Can this stone really help bake cookies?" Luke cheerfully replied, "Well, all you have to do is adjust the temperature and light a fire. Trust me and leave it to me." Suddenly, Luke remarked, "Wait a minute, miss. You have a flower on your nose." Then he carefully wiped her nose with a handkerchief. The little girl exclaimed, "Don't touch me." But Luke just laughed and replied, "Now you are clean, miss." In a moment, Luke already cares about the horse. Not far from Leon sits next to her nanny and maid, watching the bow closely. Leon turns to the maid, asking who the bow works. Is it true that he is a knight? The maid replies, "It seems yes." The nanny thinks aloud. "If you think about, I know almost nothing about the bow. I don't even remember when he became an employee." Leon, surprised, asks the question, "Did he start working here recently?" To which the maid replies, "No, he has been here for a long time." While eating, Ruri Catley cake notes that everyone around is so inattentive that they just don't know it. "Lucas has been working here since I was very small." Wiping Rari's face with a towel, Leon wondered, "Really? Do you know what Lucas does?" The little girl looked confused, answering, "His work?" Leon said, "I mean what Lucas does specifically?" Reflecting on Lucas, Leon wondered whether it misleading his resemblance to Duke, a true mysterious personality. The scene changes in the dark room. A whip standing in front of a clutch girl. He says, "Master, born to a girl, you have to do something useful. You have to live for the sake of this family." Astro thinks, "I have to succeed. Defeat is not for me." Today, it brings a cake for Riri. Riri screams joyfully, and Leona, with a smile, adds that the cookies turned out to be perfect with the help of Hatches. It would be great if he tasted too. In the middle of the Luke's process, said goodbye. Sorry, I have to go. Hope baking will bring you pleasure. Riri put her lips and stated that she would not give a hatch. She decided to get distracted until the owner smiled gently. We invite your nanny in May. I think everyone will be delighted, isn't it? Hearing Leon, Ponder thought. The little girl reached out to take her own cookies. She took the cookies to her room. The box now lay again cookies and a gem, donated to it by the Duke. She decided to keep cookies for her father. Leon looked at Rear and Nanny, and each of them smiled. After a moment, everything was ready for tea. Leon said happily, "Well, let's taste these chocolate cookies, which we worked so hard on." Riri sets a cup of milk, saying that she wants tea. The maid responds in surprise. "Oh, will you not drink milk?" The little girl replies, "Riri is already grown up." Seeing this, Leonis says, "May, give me milk." May is very surprised. "Mom, you drink milk? But you are already grown up." Leon is happily explaining that it is true. Milk contains many useful nutrients that promote health. Therefore, adults should drink it. Riri, in surprise, asks, "Is it really?" Leona smiles, replies, "Yes." She bites the cookies, and Riri watches her with wide-open, curious eyes, enthusiastically studying her. Riri lifted the cup to the maid, asking for milk. Riri also wants to drink milk. "Give a little milk." The maid cheerfully replied, "Of course." She quickly defended, "I drink it not because I am small, but because it is delicious." To which Leonis gently replied, "Okay, I understood." Suddenly, the door opened and the room entered the Aster. "Hello, Riri. I soon become your stepmother. I can't believe that you eat this cheap cake today," she said. Hearing this, everyone was surprised, and the nanny rose and asked, "What are you talking about, miss?" She screamed too loudly. The servants should keep silence and retreat, leaving the nanny with a few words. Leon had dissatisfied. She said joyfully, "I brought some of the exquisite dishes that will fit you. Since we are going to get around, I should already start playing the role of a real mother, right?" Riri turned sharply and annoyedly said, "Get out of here. I have only one mother." She continued to smile without hesitation. "Don't say so. Look, Riri. The same looks appetizing, isn't it? Much better than the cake that ordinary people are caught." Riri screamed, "It's quite tasteless. Take this damn bunch of junk and go away." Stopping in surprise, she asked, "Jump?" "Of course, continue, because it stinks terribly. So ugly, go away from here." Leon was worried because she was afraid that the girl could rise in this condition. Astra, with a sly look, said, "That's why our children are really spoiled. We need to stop this behavior. If you don't listen to my mother, I will have no other choice but to punish you." Leon hugged Riri rapidly and exclaimed, "What are you doing?" The nanny exclamedly exclaimed, "Young miss, Lady Leon." Suddenly, her hand restrained Astra, preventing her from hitting Riri. She turned strongly and exclaimed, "Who dare to stop me?" Suddenly, it was stopped by the Duke himself. He wondered what she was doing. She laughed. "Duchy, this thing, Suddenly, it turned out that it was not a duke, but a beau. She was surprised, realizing that she was not the Duke of Ian. Leon lifted her gaze with surprise and cried out, "Luke!" After throwing his hand, she replied, "Self, fooling." Luke politely replied, "Have you not insisted on staying until you meet the Duke? Please don't worry. We have prepared exquisite tea and snacks for you." She cried her tongue and said, "Okay, lead." Luke brought her out of Riri's room and the door closed behind them. Leon sighed with relief. The nanny and the maid hurried to her, asking, "My lady, madam, all is well?" "We regret it. Have you not injured?" Leon smiled and replied, "I'm fine." Looking at Riri with a worried face, Leon asked, "Riri, were you scared? You didn't hurt?" The little girl replied, "Yes, I'm fine." With tears in Riri's eyes, she confessed that he was very upset because Isama had spoiled tea. She called Riri and treated her with a piece of cake. And yet, everyone continued the tea for fun, as if nothing had happened. The late atmosphere of late lunch. The Duke returned. "This headache is just unbearable," he thinks. "How much else do I have to continue that? Do all the dirty work for the Emperor." The servant continued. "They say Ms. Ostro tried to harm Mrs. Riri, but Ms. Leon defended her." The Duke invites them both to the conversation room. The Duke addresses Mrs. Astra. "I heard from a servant that you plan to hurt Riri. Is that true?" Astra calmly replied, I just wanted to treat Mrs. Riri with delicious treats, but her tone was quite unpleasant. So I just showed her how to behave the expectant mother. Astra smugly replied, Yes, right. She has to realize that he is the daughter of a duke or a noble family. Duke, with a formidably indignant voice, said, Lady Astra, you don't need like this. Stop these meaningless actions. Hudis astragrarid in engasant. Let me apologize for having come without warning. She left. The Duke addressed Leon. Well, did you protect Riri, right? I just did what was needed. I do not know who the Duke considers Mother Riri. He asked, I heard you staged a tea party and baked cookies with Riri. Lion replied, Phonograph. Do you know what she did when you weren't around, right? The Duke calmly replied, Of course, all her actions report to me. I know everything about the Rears. Lion asked indignantly, Really? Then what do Rira like? The Duke asked. What exactly? Leonifer asked. Do you know what her favorite snack is now? Do you know what she likes to play with? Leon strongly continued. Do you think that thanks to the reports of servants, can you know about Riri without communicating with her? Is there anything about her? What did you know on your own? Almost losing patience, the Duke warned. Choose the words. I need neither your advice nor other unnecessary intervention. But Leon confidently asked, Why did you call me? Isn't you interested in knowing more about Riri? The Duke, embarrassed, answered the question. Leon continued, It's not too late. Make a way to Riri and listen to her. What does she want and what she likes? She firmly said, Isn't this a father's role? The Duke strikingly impressed the words of Leona as if they were awakening. The Duke suddenly said, Now it is clear why Russia has a different opinion about you. Returning his back, he said, Well, you can go, leaving Leonore in surprise. What? Why so suddenly? She had time to ask. Leaving the Duke's room, Lena was upset. Why did he suddenly ask me to go? Did he really realize what I said? Calmly. Calm down, he is smart. He will understand everything. Suddenly, Luke appeared and asked Lion how her conversation with Duke went. Having reached out, Luke said, I'm here to take you to your room. Leon refused. No. I ... Luke replied, Everything is okay, ladies. You can lean on me. I'll take you to the room at any time. Suddenly, Lucky took Lucas by her hand and asked, Luke, who are you really? Once upon a time, there was magic in this world. Most people were able to use magic. This was considered the time chosen by the gods. And the dragons that once existed only in legends are now raising high in the sky. 5 families who founded the empire possessed extraordinary magical power. However, all of them, except Petra, participated in civil wars to expand power, which led to their destruction. The magic, which was passed from generation to generation, gradually weakened. Over time, people forgot about magic, and now it no longer exists in this world, Leon thought. Only Petri family is able to use small magical stones. If this is not a matter of magic, how can it be explained? She asked Luke, Who are you really? She continued, Every time I am near you, amazing things happen. You came out of nowhere, and when you are near, I feel hypnotized. Moreover, no one in the estate knows who you are and where you came from, but you can easily find common ground with everyone. Hearing this, Luke was barely noticeably smiling and saying, As expected, Lady Lion, you are a really extraordinary man. No one tried to understand me so deeply before. Luke continued the conversation. If you ask about my essence. He clicked his fingers and suddenly numerous stars appeared around. Leon's eyes were widely surprised when she saw it. Luke winked and said, You can call me a sorcerer. Leon, struck, asked, Are you a sorcerer? Luke replied, Yes, but I can only use a little magic. I was not teleport, but just erase their memories. The sorcerers have disappeared from this world for a long time, and their existence seems incredible. But what has just happened looks quite real. Lion asked with concern, What do you expect from our family? Wealth or power? Lion hesitated and admitted that it was difficult to believe. How can I trust you if you are able to manipulate people's memory and make them see you in a better light? Luke said, I know you don't trust me, but I will make an effort to win your trust. Please believe me, at least this time. I swear to my existence that the agreement is made with you. Leon asked. Agreement? I, Luke, a knight from Petri family, swear in front of the Duchess of Leonishan Petri. From now on, if at least one word I told the Duchess, it will be a lie. I will just stop existing. Luke ended the conversation. All today. Lady Leono, I ask for your support in the future. I will prove to you that I will not pose a threat to you or this estate. Luke bowed to the Kissalone's hand, said, I wish you a peaceful sleep, my lady. Lion was stunned by what happened. Her mind did not have time to realize the events. Luke disappeared. Lion, stunned, could not believe her own eyes and wondered what really happened. She hurt her head from constant reflections, but she could not understand anything. It would be best to ask him right. Although she did not consider him a bad person. Recalling the moment when the beau wiped Riri, Leon thought he was more sincere with her than with anyone else. This morning, the Duke looked sophisticated. He asked in surprise why everyone was silent. Riri, a guest came to you today. Riri sat next to Leon and Drew. She asked in surprise, I have a guest? Who is this? I hear about it for the first time. Riri immediately protested. I don't want to. I have already decided to draw with a nanny and my mom today. The Duke replied, How long are you going to behave like a child, Riri? The Duke suddenly spoke strictly. How many times have I told you to stop drawing? Riri frozen at surprise when the Duke continued. Is not new friends more important than drawing? Do you need people to share thoughts with? And now I understand it. When the Duke returned to leave, he ordered, I will bring guests to this room. So you have two should get along. Don't cause problems. Riri called him afterwards. Riri, evil, and tears, exclaimed. The owner of the room gently replied, If you don't like to communicate with guests, I will think of how to send them. Okay? How is you that? Leon gently stroked Faith on her head and said with a smile, Yes, I'll be there. Everyone is in order in the room, dressed and prepared for tea party to meet guests with dignity. The doors open. Two charming little girls come to the room. Brunette greeted, Good afternoon, lady. I'm Rina Ned Ira, second daughter of Count Ned Ira. Please call me Ray. Two girls bow and say, Thank you, ladies, for invitation to a tea party. Riri calmly invites, Come in, please sit down. At this point, everyone was comfortable at the tea table. Leon sat next to Riri and quietly encouraged her. Riri, you can. Hold on. Riri answered calmly. I, Rebecca Petra, daughter of Petra family. Lily smiled and thanked. Thank you again, miss, for the invitation. We didn't expect to meet you so. Very gave her cheeks and replied, It was not me, but my father invited you. A little inconvenient, Lily replied. Indeed? Well, it's true that Petri's family invited us. Looking at the whole mountain of plush rabbits that have accumulated in the room, Lily noted, There are indeed many plush rabbits, Miss Rebecca. The girl continued. When I was younger, she also loved soft toys. But they are only for kids, right? Ray, sitting nearby, covered his mouth with his hand and laughed quietly. Hearing this, Riri was terribly angry. Lily continued. I was very surprised when the Duke suddenly decided to find you a friend. He even said openly about it. So we came here and I came here for this reason. Two girls return to each other and start talking, right? Isn't it? She angrily asked herself why she fell. Leon sat next to her, not hiding the annoyance, and only with annoyance tied her tongue. Suddenly, she was illuminated. Leonie poured milk into a glass. She suggested with a smile, Girls, let's drink milk. What do you say? But they refused. Impressed? Milk? They only drink kids. Then two girls returned. Ray agreed. Yes, right. Just give me tea. Riri added, and me, just make a little stronger. Both girls skillfully added sugar to tea. Lily suddenly began to roll, remembering milk. Don't tell everyone that milk is better. Lady Rebecca, I'm saying it with care about you, she exclaimed with indignation. Your words are a full delusion. Surprised? Two girls asked, What did you just say? It was nonsense? Riri asked indignantly. Do you want to repeat? Levon, sitting nearby, twisted hair, mentally shouting, Oh God, just not that, Riri. Two girls, trembling with anger, asked, What is nonsense? Riri asked sharply. If you drink milk as baby, you all have become adults, yes? And if you add a lot of sugar, is it like eating candy, right? Suddenly, the girl shouted loudly, Continue! How are you so worthless you dare to interrupt our conversation? Leona waved her hands. No, that's not what you thought. Riri was surprised and said, But Mrs. Mother Ray, she really tells the truth. Who would have thought she was only a maid? Riri replied with indignation. I said she is my mom, so she is my mom. I have no other. You don't know who my mom is, but you say. Two girls hit the table with fury, asking, What are you saying? Riri continued. The only reason you are here is my father. You are only because I am the daughter of Duke E.M. Petrie, isn't it? Riri exclaimed with anger. What she said to my mother was tantamount to it as if she had told me in person. Don't dare to underestimate me. We will not be able to do it. Two girls were silent for surprise and were unable to say a single word. She asked, What did you just say? But a woman with an unpleasant smell? My stepmother? No, it's not true. The little girl confidently pointed to Leon and proclaimed, My mom stands here, right in front of you. Ray explained that a woman needs to get rid of her bad habits. That's why. Ray continued. That's why we were in this situation. Suddenly, Ray raised her hand and shouted loudly, Continue! Ray was still hesitating, wanting to continue talking, but you were deceived. You both find yourself in a difficult situation. Two girls asked, What? Riri shouted, You didn't hear? Get out of here. I am very glad to scare you, or maybe you want to continue the game with me. Two girls trembled with fear, seeing this look, and hurriedly asked to leave. The girls fled instantly, but Riri, disappointed, believed that nothing special happened. She always knew that she could be elected to her mother. Riri said angrily, Mom, let's go to quarrel. The scene is transferred to the Duke's office. Riri tears the door, shouting, Dad! The Duke turned in surprise and asked, Riri, your friends have already returned? Leon, breathing from running, shouted, Riri, help us! When he ran to her father, Riri asked, Friends? What other friends? Are you a fool, Dad? Why are you always doing so with me? The Duke asked in surprise, What are you about? Are you not pleased? Riri annoyedly says, What do you mean by angry? I don't need friends. From now on, please, my father, don't do it anymore. The Duke asks in surprise, You don't need friends? But did you like that woman because she treated you as a friend? The Duke, calling Lion a woman, causes incredible anger. She thinks, This crazy still has not understood anything, isn't it? Riri exclaims, Mom, she is like a girlfriend. Always next to me, listens and protects. But those two chose the aunt's aunt and came to create problems for me. The Duke frowned and asked, What happened? Leon agreed. Duke Rear is really right. Leaning closer to Riri, the Duke asks if those children are listening to the weighing. But it cannot be true. Riri is angry. See, you do not even believe the words of your own daughter. Duke embarrassedly replied, No, Riri, I believe you. Tell me details. Riri, with tears in my eyes, says, They laughing at my teddy rabbit. My mom. I don't like such children. Do you want me to be friends with that? Want Riri to be desperate and unhappy? After leaning near Riri, the Duke said excitedly, This is not so, Riri. Why do I want you? Suddenly, the servant who stood next to the Duke intervened. Your luminarity. Give, but time has come. The Duke reluctantly addressed Riri. I am busy today. I have to go soon. Please calm down and we'll talk later, okay? Hearing that the father was going to leave again, Riri intentionally became angry. The little girl pulled her hand out of her father's hand and shouted, Enough! Angry, she shouted. You are the same as they are. I don't want to see you anymore. I hate you. The Duke with good intentions called Riri, but the little girl pushed him in her leg. Exhibiting the tongue and breaking her face to the Duke, Riri said, I don't need a father who does not listen to me and always busy. Riri rushed forward, deciding to go first this time, leaving behind Lion and the Duke, who excited her excitedly. After a moment, all the servants in the estate rushed in search of the girl, shouting, Miss Riri, where are you? Leon, along with the rest of the servants, examined all the corners of the estate in search of a girl, but she was not visible anywhere. Improved, she noticed the nanny that there is probably a rabbit hole in the estate. Otherwise, how could a child disappear so quickly? The nanny suddenly addressed, Lady Lion, I ask you listen to me. The hostess turned and asked, What happened? Leaning to Lion's ear, the nanny whispered, I know where a young lady was. She often played there alone, even before your arrival. Even after I was released, I continued to bring her cookies. It is a room with many books. Leon entered the room, shouting in surprise, Is there such a place? Leon noticed how Riri hid behind a high stack of books, holding her old plush hare in her hands. She leaned gently and asked the plush hare, Hi, Bunny. You don't know where Riri? Mom is very worried about Riri. If you know, you couldn't tell me? Suddenly, to the surprise of the owner, Riri grabbed the rabbit by his paw and said, The rabbit says that everything is fine with Riri. So, Mom, don't worry. The owner smiled. Really? Great. She gently said, Bunny, can you say Riri that Mom doesn't want her to miss? The girl nodded. Yes, don't worry. With Riri really all well. Leon closed the door, sat quietly, leaning against them, and thought with sadness. She has long been there, but she has not yet come out. Is she still upset? Worried about Riri, she gently opened the door and gently called it. At some point, the little girl fell asleep. She slept peacefully. Lion took Riri in her hands and noticed that she fell asleep. Realizing that it was uncomfortable to sleep in this position, she decided to take her to bed. Suddenly, Lena paid attention to the book on which Riri laid her head. Its name was A Black Rabbit, a White Rabbit. Taking the book in her hands, Leon thought. The text faded a little. She was surprised if he was written by hand. It was a comic book. Once upon a time, a small rabbit was living in a small village in the forest who had a happily spent time with his family. A small rabbit always enjoyed carrots and was a brave and lively baby. On rainy days, he fell asleep in the arms of his mother, a golden rabbit. One day, when the rabbit's father collected forest strawberries, the hunters shot him. Mom of the golden rabbit and her baby left her home. They were swollen, but strong love, which combined rabbits, gave them courage to overcome difficulties every day. Now a small rabbit has grown enough to go to collect wild strawberries, even on rainy days. Mother of Gold Rabbit has been lying in bed for many days. The black rabbit is not small for a long time. He sits in silence near the bed of the mother of the golden rabbit. Finally, Mother Gold Rabbit could not wake up from her long sleep. The black rabbit is left alone, no longer going out of the forest strawberries. In rainy days, he always remembers the mother of the golden rabbit and feels deep sadness. But one day, the black rabbit heard someone's cry in the forest. It was a small white rabbit that wept lonely in the wood. The black rabbit brought a small white rabbit to his home and treated it with forest strawberries. A small white rabbit sobbed, biting the berries. For the first time in a long time, the black rabbit smiled again. Riri slept firmly in the bed, and Leon was sitting nearby, immersed in reading the comic book. She gently touched the face of a smiling black rabbit and wondered, Everything, I assume. It's a children's book created by someone. Leon remembered the comic book about the black and white rabbits, which she read earlier, and thought, as expected, this is a fairy tale, but who is her author? She wondered who exactly wrote this book. Perhaps the author was Riri's biological mother? Before the birth of Riri, the only one who could draw in this estate was she. She remembered the words of the nanny that this room was stored by Riri's mother. Looking at the sleeping Riri, Leon thought, she really said so. Leon muttered her nose, feeling a headache, thinking about how to do her in a situation with Duke Ian and Riri. Suddenly, someone's hand gently touched her shoulder. She shuddered and asked who it was. It was a duke. She exclaimed with the surprise, Duke Ian! The duke said, Follow me, then grabbed her hand and pulled it, forcing her to scream with pain. Oh, wait, Duke, what's with you? Suddenly, she sharply pushed the hand of Duke John and shouted loudly. She asked him, What kind of crazy got off? What are you doing? Standing by the window and looking out, the Duke of Bitley said, It's all because of you. You suffer. Riri never said such cruel things. She has always listened to me, but since you appeared, she has changed, Leon said angrily. What? Now you blame me for everything? She asked him. You hate so much that I spend time with Riri? The Duke clutched his fists from anger. He confessed yes. Lion thought of how to do her. I just want to help improve their relationship. I want them to be happy. She guaranteed herself, thinking, I am sure that everything happened. I love her, and she loves me too. That is why their relationship was destroyed. Surprisingly, the Duke's novel is usually not exposed to another's influence, but now it looks restless. Leona was a part of the head. She thinks whether the Duke's soul was changed after all that happened. She asks the Duke of John if he knows that he is in the precious Ruri box. The Duke in response asks, "What is there?" She replies that things that the girl appreciates very much, for example, a brooch with a red stone, is stored inside the box. In addition, there are clumsy rabbits in the form of rabbits. To whom are all these things? The Duke asked the pain again that she was trying to say, "What did I do wrong?" Feeling in a corner, he began to justify himself. "I am just trying to protect Riri." But Leon turned away, expressing her dissatisfaction. The Duke suddenly stated, "In fact, it was not necessary to return it, even if she had platinum hair." Leon was surprised. What did he mutter? The Duke suddenly stated, "Riri is more important to me than my own life. But if you are here, she will never look at me again. So please go. Once you do it, everything will come back as it was. I beseech you, I will give you everything you want." Leon was stunned, dissatisfied with his eyebrows on the words of the Duke. She clenched his fists, thinking that if he had just fun or behaved senseless, she would have resisted and would not go. But his gaze and actions made me feel superfluous, as if I was interfering with their union. Leon said with sadness, "I understand, I'll go." The Duke asked joyfully, "Indeed?" She felt that her existence may have been an unnecessary obstacle, but instead she said, "You said you would fulfill my desire, yes? Then do me a favor." The Duke immediately asked, "What is this service?" Leon replied, "What I always asked you, be with her at least once." She calmly said, "It can be your last chance because her heart is gradually closed. Do not avoid her because of employment or pride. Let anyone say she looks only at you." Returning to the door, Leonore said, "That's all I want. I go." The Duke suddenly exclaimed, "Wait, take it," emphasizing your last manifestation of care for it. The Duke wanted to give Leonie a wallet with money. However, Leon refused, saying, "It is not worth it. I gave advice, not for the sake of money." The Duke was surprised by her words. Smiling, she continued, "I do all this for Riri." The night came. Leon wandered lonely in the forest. She left the Duke's estate. Looking at the estate, Leon sadly thought, "The place where Riri and I were happy today have ceased to be my home. After all, I, like other stepmother. Riri apparently would be better if you hated me. Once I promise not to leave you, but please don't be sad for a long time because I have broken this promise. The only person who will always be with you is your father. I will always remember you." After a while, the result of Rear and Leona jointly was embodied in the form of a rabbit-shaped tray. Riari exclaimed joyfully, "These chocolate cookies are my work. They are exactly like little bunnies." Looking into the sky, she thought, "I will find my own way." The next morning, in a small hotel, Leon was sitting, breaking from pain, and complained, "How hurts? Only a few days I am on the road and for so much suffering." She thought, "Despite the fact that my body hurts, I got a good sleep. What to do next?" She suddenly remembered that she had a deal with Luke. Luke put both hands on the owner's hands. She thought, "Now that I left the estate, is this agreement left?" Looking at the hand with the magical seal that binds it to the bow, she decided, well, it is necessary to find out if there is magic in this world. After watching the books, she exclaimed, "Luke didn't lie? He seems to be absolutely reliable. Everything that he said was true." She closed the book and put it off, assuring herself that it no longer matters, because she would never see it again. Walking the street, she reassured herself with the idea that Luke was not one of those who were able to do Riri. Suddenly, Leon opened his eyes wide with surprise. The temple stood in front of her. Despite the lack of magic in this world, people still believed in the supernatural and worshipped the god Amidus. People built temples to worship the Amidus, and the royal family had close ties with these shrines, even receiving the prophecies concerning the fate of the country. Looking at the temple, Leon thought that you may still find hints about magic inside. If so, it can help her find the way home. She may be able to learn something about the Petra family that connects them to the royal family, and also to reveal the person of Lucas. I no longer have to do with Petra's family, but about Riri. I can't leave the desire for Riri to be happy. Riri suddenly smiled widely and said, "I would love such a mom. I would not feel dislike for you just because you have changed." Opening the door, she entered the temple. The priest stood inside the temple. The priest wondered if she had any questions. The scene returns to the present time in the temple, where the priest asks Leon, "Do you need any help?" Leona smiled and replied that she wanted to pray. She thought now she learned what she was capable of. The scene returns to the Duke's estate. The night was absorbed, and the Duke stood on the balcony looking down. The Duke followed her when she walked. He clenched his fists, restoring the determination. She left, and the Duke returned to her table. He wondered if he would return to his place now. The Duke closed his eyes. Looking at the mountain of the documents left on the table, the Duke thought with pain. The Duke unexpectedly felt sharp chest pain. He wondered, I have been feeling dizziness lately, and an unknown pain. What happens to me? He waved all the papers from the table to the floor. He falls on the ground with a groan, twisting in pain. After bowing his head, the Duke exclaims, "Damn!" The priest looks closely at her. He draws attention to the worn dress of Leon. Then he says, "Please here." He points to a place far from them, saying, "Here." Leon said with indignation, "Yes, you seem to accept people, focusing only on their appearance." She humbly sat down in her place, realizing that it would make no sense to arrange the scene. So she decided to suffer so far. She wrapped her hands in prayer and then looked at the priest. He cheerfully talked to someone in the first row. It was a woman who looks like a noble lady, and he treated her with great courtesy. Noticing poorly dressed people sitting in the back rows, Leon, without being religious, felt that this species leaves an unpleasant impression. She saw the noble lady passes the money to the priest. Leon had a sadness. She was surprised that the temple fell to the fact that she was forced to earn in such ways. It seemed like an obstacle to the study of magic in such a place. She sighed and said a prayer for Rear. She prayed so that Riri was no longer ill and always remained happy. If God exists, let all mention of me will be erased from the child's memory. My existence has only brought you pain. Forget the mother who has harmed you and left you. Grow happily. Suddenly, a man looks like the owner. The man was dressed in a cloak with a hood, looked like an older gentleman. Seeing him, Leon was stunned. He quickly took off his hat and apologized for scaring her. Leon, surprised, asked why he was looking at her. Does he know her? The old man smiled gently. No, this is our first meeting, but you are very interesting. Leon was surprised to think about what was so interesting. The old man said, I forgot to introduce. I am Cool. My name means dog. Isn't that interesting? Leon smiled mysteriously. Oh yes, I'm Leon. The old man smiled widely and said, Leon, this is a very beautiful name. Leon thought, is something wrong with him? Suddenly, the old grandfather got a gold coin out of his pocket and said, Take her. Leon got up, smiling awkwardly. I can't take it. I will probably go now. The old man, regretting, asked, Are you already leaving? Leon, feeling anxious, replied, I have things. The old man reluctantly replied, Of course, I understand everything. He suddenly said, Your desires will come true. God Amadote will help you. Live with faith in him. Leon, still embarrassed, replied, Yes, you are too. Well, I went. Leonite turns and goes away. The old man stayed with a sad and thoughtful look. The old man looks at the gold coin he intended to give Leonite. Suddenly, the voice is heard. Here is where you. 3 supreme priests appear, saying, We were looking for you, sir. The supreme priest of the circle Benedict itself. One of the priests asks, Do you go to this man again? He calmly replies, Sometimes it is useful to hear people's stories. Another priest notes that the news of the rapid arrival of His Majesty of the Emperor appeared. There is an important place where you should be present, so please prepare. He replies, I feel certain signs. The priests ask, So what are you trying to say? The supreme priest asks, Are we really priests that can fully understand the will of the gods? Yes, we can when the right moment comes. Looking to the side of the door through which Leon just came out, the supreme priest happily says, In any case, we will still meet Leono. The scene changes. Leon goes street, almost exhausted by fatigue. She said with sadness. She was in vain spent a gold coin, and she never found traces of magic. Where to go now? Remembering this, there is a port from where ships depart to other countries. Leona happily says to himself, Yes. Suddenly, Leon faces someone and swayed with pain. Excuse me, I didn't look where I go. The hatch she encountered was Luke. Leon was surprised. Luke, what are you doing here? Luke replied, I'm worried about you, Leono. Leon had fallen and turned away. What? Does he think I will not leave it myself? There are no reasons for excitement. I'll just sit on the ship and go far from here. Luke smiled. You didn't see you for 3 days, and you are all as strong as always. She asked sharply, What are you talking about? We didn't see for 3 days. If you are here by order of the Duke, then… Luke came closer and put his hand on the head of the owner. Leon pushed his hand and exclaimed, What are you doing? Luke confesses that her consciousness is crowded with thoughts. She feels depressed because she cannot do anything. It is disturbing and tormented by a sense of guilt, feeling a heavy burden on the heart, crying if you need. I will take care of no one to see it. So do not restrain tears, Leon. The Leon clapped her teeth from rage. Who do you consider yourself? She pushes the hatch, shouting, Who are you to reassure me? You say it just because the Duke looks at me from above. Lucas gently says, You look like Riri. Outwardly strong, but inside is very vulnerable. Leon asks, What do you know about me? Luke calmly replies, I can't say that I know, but I feel it. Leon asks, Why are you doing it? Isn't you his man? Why otherwise are you here? Luke quickly denies, No, the Duke doesn't even know what I'm here. Luke gently covers Leona's face, saying, So don't worry. I will tell him anything. Notwithstanding more, it is poured with tears. She asked, Who are you, really? A moment after calming down, Leona returned, and Luke said with a smile, She has already stopped crying, right? Leona denied. I didn't cry. Luke asked, Do you want to leave here, yes? Already go? Leon has sincerely acknowledged, It's true. I want to leave here. It's my goal. Luke asked, Do you love the baby? I hope she will not hurt her. What about the Duke? When Leon remembered the Duke, she added, This is the one I hate the most in the world. Luke was surprised. Luke tried to find something positive, but Leon immediately rejected the idea. No, as a man, nor as a father, he is not suitable. Suddenly, her gaze stopped on the meadow. She asked, Why do you have such a facial expression? Luke with caution said, Just don't hate him too hard. Leon did not think about, Are you a lawyer or someone like… Suddenly Luke said, Leono, if you want to leave from here, I'll help. Leon asked in surprise, Will you help? How? Lucas smiled unexpectedly. Carefully taking Leon by the hand, Lucas said, That's right. Leon closed her eyes and asked, Are you imposing a spell? The scene changes to the endless sea, where the waves break into the shore, lifting white foam. Leon opened her eyes. She screamed from surprise, looking at the sea. Leon mentally asked herself, I planned to go to the port, but he was so far away. How did I get here? Lucas smiled and said, Leono, I want you to be happy. So do what you like. Go where you want, Leon thought. To do what I want. What is it really? Maybe Luke could bring me back to my world? But then what? No one is waiting for me there. I want to be near the person who is important to me with whom I love. And this man loves me too. Suddenly, she imagined Riri, who sounded, Mom. She tilted her head carefully and said quietly, Riri. She clenched his fist, hesitating. Suddenly, Luke said, Frankly speaking, Jusian is looking for you now. Leon asked in surprise. Looking for me? But why? Are you lying, Truth? He kicked me. Why is he looking for me now? Leon asked in surprise. Lucas replied, It is hard to believe, isn't it? Luke closed his eyes and said, Now look on your own. It is the state of Sion, the homeland of Lion. The Duke was there, asking her parents in the way, Where is Lion? Her father replied, We do not know where she disappeared. Duke annoyedly asked, She is your daughter. How can you not know where she is now? Maybe she is in a place that is often visited or with friends. To which the father replied, We really don't know. Luke gently removed her hand, and the owner slowly opened her eyes, silently whispering, Dukian. She asked Luke, What was it just? Luke replied, I used magic to show you what's going on in Zio Estate. Luke explained that from the day she left, the Duke constantly regretted, but did not dare to go in search of her. By not understanding his own feelings, he is only angry with the family. The owner laughed joyfully. She laughed and said like a fool. Her laughter caused even more joy in Luke. Luke asked that Leon wanted to do next. She replied that she did not know, but the thoughts of the Duke were upset. She confessed that she was missing the Ruri, so she stated with a smile she wanted to return to her. She continued, "Luke, take me to the old place. There is one place where I want to get. Not sure if I can return myself, but..." Holding her hand, Luke said, "Don't worry. Even if everyone is against it, I will still come after you. I miss you too, Leono. Let's meet again in the estate. I'll wait for your arrival." After these words, the bow disappeared. Leon returned to the street where Luke just appeared. Leon has promised herself quietly, "Yes, I will definitely come back." Looking at the temple in front of her, she ordered herself to be strong. She returned home and immediately noticed that the door was damaged. She heard the cries, "Find it immediately." She saw the Duke that she shouted at her parents. "And they also call her family," she thought. She entered the room and said with sarcasm, "Do you have the courage to say such things?" All present turned in astonishment, exclaiming, "Leon," she continued sharply. "They look at you as if you were looking for someone who is in limitlessly missing, but it was you who pushed me away." The Duke of Stafford. Leonid waved, considering it a misunderstanding. "I came here just because it was too noisy." "What do you mean by playing a role? So rudely act after all the path we went through?" The Duke, a little confused, replied that it was not rude. "No, you're right. I really was impolite. I had no other way to find you, so I came here several times, hoping that you would come back." Considering the broken door, Leon noted that it is not worthy of behavior for the Duke. The Duke, with a depressed look, said, "How uncomfortable it is." Leon cast a look at his parents, in the eyes of which only the desire for money was glowing. They hinted to her? He broke the door, so demand compensation from him. In Lion's despair, she thought that this family has not changed at all. The Duke suddenly said, "Come back with me. I have so much to tell you." Lion quickly turned away and replied, "Thanks to whom did I go all night in a mountain way?" The Duke was silent, but Lion strongly headed for the door and said, "Do not take time for empty conversations. Let's go. If you have something to say on the go." Suddenly, her father ran, grabbed her hand, and said, "Leono, you have to listen to your father. You can't go so easy. The Duke has visited us in recent days. Wouldn't it be better to talk to Duke in person?" Leon asked, tired. "Are you going to demand reimbursement for the door again?" The Duke calmly replied, "I will do the way Leon wants." The owner replied with restrained, "I have passed since I saw my daughter. Is that all you want to tell her? Isn't it worth asking her how she's..." My father was confused. "Indeed, we have not seen you for a long time. I see you look good, so you didn't ask." Leon asked, suspicious. "Indeed? By the way, about the door. The compensation you received for my head injury last time was not enough. You already spent everything?" Leon examined their expensive outfits and shining jewelry. Leon sharply noted, "I didn't know that you spent everything on a penny. It seems that you live well because of your daughter's injury." Her mother exclaimed, "Leono, how can you say so? We used money only for urgent need. Everything we did was for our family," Leon said angrily for them to follow. "There is no place for selfishness in this family," she continued. "Don't think you can use my name to get money. Stop hoping for it." Her mother, upset, asked, "Leono, what's happening to you? Why did you change so much?" She turned and replied, "Of course I had to change. Why do I have to sacrifice my life for this family that is unlikely to exist?" She continued, "From now on, I will live for myself. I'm no longer part of your family. Don't try to contact me." This left them stunned and silent. She came back to leave, wishing to stay healthy. The mother called her in despair, and her father shouted, "Leono, you got mad? Stop immediately." But she quietly went away with the Duke. The Duke took it to the estate. They went together on one horse. The exhausted Leon closed her eyes and thought that it became quieter. Seeing her in such a state, the Duke asked if she was fine with her. Leon calmly replied that everything was fine with her, but wondered what brought him to her. The Duke confessed that after he sent her away, he did not have a day of rest, and the hostess thought, "So you need," he continued. "You were right. After your departure, I listened to your last advice and began to listen to Riri's feelings. She often cried, but finally, for the first time, I was able to open me. The events are postponed a few days earlier when the Duke remembers Lion just left. In Riri's room, the girl threw a toy in the Duke's face, shouting that she did not want to see him, and ordered him to go away. The Duke sat gently and said, "Riri, she left because she wanted the best for you." The girl asked with sadness, "What's better for Riri?" The Duke replied, "Yes, you will no longer get sick." Riri clenched his fists and said, "But it's so strange." The Duke asked what happened, and the little girl replied that she was experiencing even more pain near her mother. The little girl burst into tears, asking, "Why is everything happening, Daddy?" Quickly hugging his daughter, the Duke only managed to say, "Riri." A little girl, still crying, said, "You know nothing, Dad. I never celebrated my birthday with you. The books write that my birthday is a joyful day, but I always alone. You never said you love me or that I am good? Never." The Duke could only say, "Forgive me, Riri." The little girl continued, "I would have played better with my mom than I received gifts from you. Now I'm so sad, Dad." The Duke assured, "Father will return her, Riri." The scene returns to the present time. Two jumping over the mountains. The Duke says with sadness, "It seems that the ball of misunderstanding has finally become unraveled, and I realized what the pointless was before. Because of this, my heart is now free from the burden. I was convinced that we would handle without you, and this arrogance pushed me to a senseless mistake. It's all my fault. The fear of losing my daughter pushed me for mistakes about you. If you don't forgive me, it's fair. The main thing is that you can become Riri's mother again. This is the most important. Thanks to you, my daughter and I better understand each other." Wiping her hand, Leon thought that if he told her about his feelings immediately after returning, her heart would not have suffered such shocks. The Duke generously said, "Everything you want, I can give you." Leon carelessly replied, "And if I say I want a magical coping?" Unexpectedly, the Duke agreed, leaving Leon with his mouth open. When the Duke arrived at the estate, he climbed out of the horse, helped Leonese to come down, and said, "I will give you anything. I will not joke." Leon suggested that the magic mine was what the Emperor wanted, but he said that he would just give her as if it were a trifle. She asked, "Why are you trying so much? Do you have a bride?" "She is probably already Riri's mother, right?" The Duke smiled and said, "I have already taken care of it, so don't worry. This post is now your—" The eyes expanded the eyes. "What do you mean?" she asked. The Duke reached out. "Come with me." He said gently, "You can hate me, but please become my baby's mother." She remembered the words of the Duke. "You can hate me, but please become my baby's mother." Leon frowned and replied, "Even if I die, you still don't forgive you. You're the worst for me." Going from a horse, she said, "I only do it for my favorite daughter." The Duke smiled. "Thank you very much." Leon knew exactly what she really wanted. She did not want to stay in this new world or return to the present. Her only desire was near Riri. She rushed to look for Riri, thinking if her return would give a little girl joy. And if not, will Riri be dissatisfied because of her presence? Even if so, she will hug her. It should apologize for all days of absence. Riri can say anything. It doesn't matter. She will accept everything. Like Riri's mother, she opened the door and called for a good way. "Riri." Seeing her, the nanny and the maid shouted in surprise, "Madam!" They rushed to her, crowded with joy. "My God, madame, where have you been?" "We were waiting for you." Leon smiled and said, "Sorry, but how is Riri?" Hearing this, the nanny burst and cast her gaze behind her back. "About that?" Riri hid behind the chair, hugging her ugly rabbit. Leon came gently and said, "Riri, Mom is already at home." However, she just remained silent. She smiled easily, believing that a little girl was really angry with her. Suddenly, the girl stated that Riri had no mother. Flyon quickly apologized, saying, "Sorry. I really regret." "Riri." Mom was wrong. However, Riri was still shouting, "I have no mom, go away." Leon patiently replied, "It is quite natural that Riri is angry with my mother. I will stay here and wait until Riri wants to see my mother again." She gently asked the nurse and maid, "Please leave us. I want to be alone with her." They replied, "Of course I understand." Riri screamed again. I said go away. I don't want to see my mom at this afternoon. Lifting a plush hair, Leon cheerfully said, I'm not a mom. I'm a bunny. Bunny here. Bunny and Mom will wait for Riri to feel comfortable. Suddenly, she burst into tears. Leon gently noted that the bunny would not cry so much, and Riri replied that it was simply stupid. Leon was upset that Riri's whims were tearing her heart. Nevertheless, she realized that now, next to Riri, she was much happier than she lived alone. Riri decided to find her mother at any cost. So she waited patiently. Leon was concerned about Riri. Riri wept and said, the idea that the MES may not return makes me very sad. I got the temperature and I cough. I constantly see in my dreams that my mom will not come back, no matter how much I called her. But my mom didn't even look back and left me alone. Leon said sharply that now her mother would never leave her, but the girl did not believe and replied, You are lying. Leon, holding back emotions, explained, Mom says the truth, I promise. I will always be with you until you start trusting me. Riri put off the bear and said, Oh, this is your wonderful mom. Well, weird. You don't listen to me, stubborn. And now you come back and say that I am a beauty, or something. Leon, smiling, wiped Riri's tears and thought that, nevertheless, you were still calling me a mom. She said, I missed you so much. Only a few days and my Riri has already lost weight. Riri exclaimed, Whose guilt? Leon hugged Riri firmly. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. From now on, we will eat a lot of delicious and live together. Let's enjoy food, play, and stay healthy. Well, in her mother's hands, she said indifferently, They say, let it be anything. The little girl smiled happily. Leono sits next to Riri, looked after her until she sleeps. Suddenly, the voice is heard. A little girl sleeps. It turns out that it was the Duke. Leon replies, Yes. Riri sleeps calmly. Considering Riri, the Duke with warmth notes that a lot of time has passed since she slept so calmly. The owner suddenly replies, When she wakes up, it is then that she should tell her. Tell her these words in her face. Duke, surprised, replies, Of course I will do so. For Riri and for you too. Lion angrily states, No, I'm giving up. In her thoughts, she quietly thinks, If I say it, it will only lead to new problems. She turns away with indignation, forcing the Duke to seek reconciliation. Okay, I realized, he says. Looking at Leon, the Duke gently asked if we could talk a little. They both went to another room. Sitting, Leon asked, So, what did you want to talk to me? The Duke replied, I used to say that the place of Mother Riris is yours now. Do you remember? Leon nodded. Yes, I remember. The Duke continued. In fact, a few days ago, the engagement between Mina Wildea was cancelled. I also already informed a Vilda family about it. This unexpected turn surprised Leon. She asked, What? Why so suddenly? The Duke replied, From the very beginning, I used this marriage to investigate the activities of the black market. Leon, she was surprised. Black market? The Duke asked, Do you know something about a Vilda's family? Leon replied, No, I know nothing. Illegal operations occur in the black market. This place is known for trade and sale of unregistered and unknown drugs, which are often used in criminal acts. The family who manages the black market and earns a profit on it known as the Clan Avilde. Because their business is illegal, I am worried that it can harm the merchants. Therefore, I have to investigate this case to protect the residents of the area. By chance, when we detained the breadwinner, she dropped a bottle with a drug that was forced by Riri to use. This medicine worsened the girl's condition. When I learned about the origin of this drug, it turned out that it came here from the black market. In the investigation of the person who created this drug, we found that both a person and all related objects disappeared. Someone seems to be trying to prevent our investigation. Initially agreeing with Avel Declan, I planned to receive information about the black market. But now, frankly, I do not want Riri to be with someone who could hurt her. The person who really needs is in front of me. I have evaluated you. Leon gently replied, That's enough. No matter your words, I returned through rear, she said with anxiety, concerned about the black market. The owner wondered, The black market? It was not in the original story. Even if I remember on average, I don't remember it. The scene is transferred to the Duke of Wilders. Duke, annoyed, exclaimed, "Damn. Do you look like the engagement does not exist? How did we get to it?" Astra, trembling, fell to her knees. The Duke continued with anger, although there were repeated rumors of the possible unification with the family Peter. Throwing a candlestick to the Asse, Ertsoga fell asleep with a formidable voice. "If you did everything properly, I would not have undergone this humiliation. What did you really do?" Astra screamed in despair. "P," she cunningly assured. "Father, don't worry. I will not let you down for sure." The next morning, time flies like a wind. The party day has already come. Riri woke up and asked her mom joyfully, "How did you sleep?" Lion greeted. "Good morning, Riri. How did you sleep?" The little girl replied, "Good." Gently stroking the girl on the cheek, Lion thought, 10 days have passed since I returned to the estate. After my return, Rirafel got sick for several days, but now she was fully recovered. Every day Riri is like a shadow, does not deviate from me. Apparently, I'm afraid that I will disappear again, but she should not worry. Now I will always be there and never leave her. Hugging a little girl, Leon said, "Miriri is so warm and gentle." With great joy and smile, the girl replied, "You are also warm, Mom." Suddenly, Riri jumped and exclaimed, "Oh, for sure, now is not the time for that." Leon, surprised, addressed her. "Really?" The girl lifted Leon, saying, "Probably ready, Mom. Let's look." Leon was surprised. "To see what?" The child replied that she surprised Leon. "Your room." They both entered the room, and Leon widened her eyes in surprise. Riri proudly stated, "Dad has been working out for several days. Looks great." Riri continued, "Now it's your room, Mom." Lion exclaimed, "What?" Lion asked. "But I already have a room." Riri wrinkled, "Do you mean that dark and tight room?" "How could you stay there?" Looking back, Riri asked, "Isn't it tattoo?" The Duke suddenly appeared behind Lion's back, confirming, "That's right." It made her shudder when she turned to him. He continued, "This is the Duchess's room. She was empty for a long time. Now that your mother is the Duchess, you have the right to this room." Leon hesitated, but the Duke asked, "Do you still feel that this is not enough?" "If you need something, even the most expensive, I'm ready." The pressure of the situation was unbearable. Leon is still not used to new circumstances. Suddenly, the Duke wondered if everyone had already had lunch. Leon replied that not yet. The Duke confessed, "Shaylee, I have not had breakfast too yet. If so, why don't you join us? I will prepare breakfast." Leon was surprised and asked, "What?" Riri exclaimed happily, "Breakfast." "We will eat together?" The little girl sang cheerfully, "Mom, let's eat breakfast together." "Good," Leon agreed. "Is what you want?" Riri added, "Nani said we should dress well." The little girl, pulling her Leon, ran forward and shouted to her father, "Mom, I'll change my clothes and get back soon. Wait for us, okay?" Leon responded. Looking at the stage in front of him, the beetle smiled satisfied. Looking at the room, the Duke was happy to think, "This room has finally found its special charm." Carefully preserved suits. There is a day when shoes and jewelry can shine in full strength. The maid gladly said, "Ladies, leave all of us. We will make every effort to make your first breakfast together unforgettable." Leonie waved her hand vigorously, assuring that it was only breakfast, and you should not try too much. However, she gladly agreed. "Indeed, I need Mom and I look brilliant." "Yes," both maids replied. Leon was surprised to think, why all this noise? Meanwhile, Riri joyfully chose jewelry, thinking that they would best fit. The girlfriend had fun. Look as a passionate missus. Riari handed Lonnie necklaces and asked, "Mom, will you put on this necklace?" Leon gladly replied, "Well, listen to you. My Riri is so sweet and kind. Everything you choose is beautiful." Having received praise from her mother, Riri confidently dropped her breasts and replied, "Of course, this is me. There is nothing impossible for Riri." Then Riri leaned to look more carefully at a bunch of drawings she created. To the surprise of everyone, Riri lifted one of the drawings and exclaimed, "Look, Mom." Riri is also able to draw perfectly, she said, showing a picture on which 3 people hold their hands. Leon exclaimed, "This is true. My Riri is unsurpassed." The girl proudly confirmed, "Yes." Considering the picture, Leon smiled. I thought about herself. This is the most beautiful picture in the world. The door to the room opened. The Duke, dressed in a sophisticated outfit, stood in anticipation. Seeing the two went, he said, dissatisfied, "Finally, you're here." Suddenly, his eyes were widely revealed with surprise. Leon and Riri looked like 2 heavenly angels. Seeing the Duke stared at her, Leon began to explain nervously. "I prepared it in that, so she was delayed more than planning. Sorry. I look strange." Duke, too, a little embarrassed, replied, "No, it is not surprising. Just a little unexpected, that's all." There were many delicious dishes on the table. Riri does not calm down and asks again, "Dad? Well, do you not a mother?" The Duke and the owner were almost gone by food, hearing Riri's question. Leon Sheely, with a smile, said, "Riri, if asked yes, it's a little strange." But the girl insisted, "I'm serious, Mom." "And what do you think, Dad?" "Answer honestly." Duke awkwardly replied that this feeling seemed to be someone else, but denied, "This is not an answer. In such cases, you should say, 'You are already beautiful, and now even more.' This is how you need to answer." The Duke asked, "Really?" Riri sighed helplessly. "How did it happen that such a poor father appeared such a smart daughter as you? Like me. Now say it again." The Duke was completely lost. Returning to Leon, the Duke said that you were always charming, and now you have become even more beautiful. Riri climbed to her feet, raising her hand as a sign of recognition. "Good work, Dad." Leonie smiled a little inconvenient and said, "Riri, compliments should go from heart." Which Riri quickly answered. Leonore, a little ashamed, thought, "It's not true." However, even if these words are insincere, it is usually not easy to compliment. He seems to have changed compared to what he was before. The Duke tried to change the topic and thought, "By the way, Riri, you have been drawing something lately, isn't it?" The girl replied in surprise, "Yes." Remembering the past, when her father did not allow her to draw, Riri sadly lowered her head. Refusing, Riri said nothing. Leon has added worried. "Duke, concerning this case." In fact, she asked, "Indeed, Dad, I can draw." The Duke replied, "Yes." "I was always against your drawings. Do you know why?" The girl replied, "No." Then he explained, "Your mother was fond of drawing, but because of her poor health, since your health is also weak, I was afraid that you would look like your mother too much." The little girl strongly rose and denied, "I'm not weak. Riri is very strong. Although I'm sick now, but I get well." Yuka smiled. "Yes, my Riri is sure to recover." Riri asks her father, talking about her mother, "Dad, do you love Mom?" Duke surprisedly reacted, "Your mom?" Leon believes that a little girl is interested in her mother. Immersed in memories in the gym, you can't say, "I love your mom more for all." Riri inflates the cheeks and says that you must give this love and mother of the owner. Do you understand? I'm serious. It's a pity, Mom, with you. But I still want Riri. A voice like an old grandmother says that, of course, yes. The mother is beautiful and sweet, like a rabbit. Anu, you are good outside, but your character leaves much to be desired. Although it is worth saying that you are also rich. Leon, admiring, says, Riri, you think so deeply. The Duke barely holds back emotions. His hair is ready to explode, and he cannot utter a word. Leon quickly embraces a little girl, saying that Riri's mother's eyes are as sweet as a rabbit. The kid, rejoicing, replies, "Of course. Now eat, Mom, and don't talk." The girl feeds her mother, advised, "Mom, say A." Watching this joyful scene, Duke smiles. After lunch, the Duke suggested, "Let's go to your favorite garden and drink tea." Riri wondered, "In the pink garden?" Not believing her ears, Riri asked again, "Really? Are you serious?" The Duke smiled and replied, "I give you permission." "I can't always forbid." Happy exclaimed, "Are you serious, your father?" "Will you no longer be angry with me?" Leon asked with interest. And what is the place where you did not allow her to walk? Leon was surprised to say, You remember her very often today. I once avoided the smiles of the Duke, but now I decided to resist them. All this is thanks to you. Thank you very much. Leon was amazed by the Duke's unexpected gratitude. She uncertainly replied that she was doing so for the sake of Riri. It seemed strange to her that he suddenly became so frank with her, but eventually it was nice. The scene is transferred to the garden with roses. Mom, look, isn't that great? Very exclaimed. Leon fascinated her eyes and exclaimed, Incredible! Looking around, Leon was enthusiastically said, The garden is really incredible. Now I understand why he likes it. Riri returned and smiled. That's right. Looking at the bright blue roses, Leon thought, Do such roses really exist in this world? As if reading her thoughts, the Duke noted that blue roses are a kind that does not exist in nature. I created them with the help of magic stones. Leon asked if he was really able to create such beautiful roses. Recalling time in the pink garden, the Duke explained that these roses are not real, but specifically created with magic stones. The Duke gently touched one of the blue roses and explained that these flowers can only be grown in a greenhouse. Not everyone is allowed to come here. This garden was created specifically for the mother of Riri. Leon was surprised by the Duke's words. Looking at her, the Duke smiled and noted that this flower fits perfectly with her kind. He added that this type of flowers is intended exclusively for people with special beauty. She wondered if he understood as far as his words were in place. But the Duke actually asked. Suddenly, the Jew was rattled by Riri, and the little girl turned. What is his father? The Duke sat in front of her and said, Listen carefully. This place was favorite for your biological mother. She was happy to sit here, looking forward to you. In the heart of your mother, you are her most expensive treasure, Riri sadly said. But my mother went away from me early. If I was her treasure, why didn't she give me a name? She said she would wait for me, but did not even leave a letter. The Duke was surprised and did not know what to say. Riri suddenly pushed the Duke's hand, exclaiming, Father, say nothing more. Riri said to Leon, Leona's mother is more important now, so let's not remember the past. Otherwise, we will really be angry. The little girl ran forward, leaving the tube behind. Leon felt sad, realizing that the girl was only 5 years old. It was extremely difficult for her to put up with her mother's death. She returned to Jen and asked, Duke, is it really necessary for her to know? He replied, Not necessarily, but Leon suggested, Give her time until Riari completely agrees with that. She asked me, I see you like this place too. Why didn't you come here so much? The Duke replied that at first Riris's mother could not decide to have a baby, but when she finally decided, there was a lot of things. When she died suddenly, I no longer wanted to come here. However, there was a fact that she loved this child sincerely. And I want the baby to know her mother loved her very much. Leon asked, Isn't that all, isn't it? Why did you hide the truth about Riri's mother from her? The Duke turned away and replied, Maybe, she continued. You have a reason why you can't tell me the truth, but you will not be able to hide it forever. You can't lie to Riri endlessly. So far not. Wait for it to grow, and then tell Riri the truth. Treachery. You replied, I'll think about it. Suddenly crawled to Lion with a blue rose, exclaiming, Mom, take it. She is very good for you. Lion smiled happily and asked, This is a gift for Mom? Thank you, Crash. Suddenly, the Duke thoughtfully said, There is something I have not mentioned for lunch. Leonore asked, What is it? The Duke said, Soon I will officially declare you the Duchess of Petri family. This message will soon become known to all. Leon and Riri were amazed and asked, To declare? Riri asked in surprise. Do you mean that my mom will be officially my mother? The Duke replied happily, That's right. Raria gladly said, Really? It's wonderful. Let's have a holiday to find out. The Duke asked, I thought you didn't love the party. Riri replied, Yes, I hated them, but now when I have a mom, my thought has changed. I will tell everyone that now I have a mom so they don't look at me anymore. Lion with regret thought, That's why she didn't love parties. Riri thought the plan. I will make them blush with shame. They dared to laugh at me last time. Yes, even those gray old ones. The little girl replied, Yes. The unity flag was raised. Very smiled with joy and said, Then I will wear the same outfit as you, Mom. Leon agreed. Of course, let's do so. The girl added, but it cannot be exactly the way you wear now. The Duke was surprised by their perseverance. Turning to the Duke with delight, she said, Dad, prepare my shoes and suit now. The Duke smiled and replied, Okay, I will prepare everything. The three of them enjoyed a pleasant moment, enveloped by the beauty of the garden filled with beautiful roses. A few days later, Rear fell asleep just after drawing. The owner smiled with love and said, My dear Riri, you sleep so sweetly. Suddenly, because of someone's voice, he apologized for being worried about ladies. Leon asked, What happened, May? The maid replied, We have a guest. Leon, in surprise, asked, Guest? Leon thought in surprise, Astra wants to see me? Leon thought why Astra suddenly wanted to see her. She asked the maid to bring the Astra to her on the balcony. Leon wanted to listen to what Astra should say. On the balcony of Leon, two sat opposite each other. Astra said politely, I came so unexpectedly, but you still accepted me. Thank you, Miss Leon. Leon asked without delay, Why do you want to see me? Astra replied, I came to apologize for what happened. Revealing repentance, Astra said, I was in a hurry because I wanted to do well with the girl. At that moment, I did not understand that I was unfair. Thanks to Miss Leone, I realized my mistake. I want to apologize to Miss Rebecca. Where is she now? Leon replied that the girl is now resting, and Astro said, Of course, then I congratulate Miss Rebecca a little later. Leon was thinking that good when a person is aware of his place. But is she really sincere? Did she think of something else? In fact, Astra recently said that the Duke Ian reported the cancellation of the engagement. Do you know that, right? Leon replied, Yes, I know. Astro smiled gently and said, It looks like the Duke Ian has already told you. You will officially become the Duchess. Leon carefully asked, What do you mean? Asta Malicious continued, Because the vassals and nobles who follow the Duke are completely dissatisfied. It is not your fault. However, Lady Leono, does it seem to you that your origin is somewhat unworthy? Leon firmly replied, They can think of anything about my origin. I am indifferent. This is the decision of the Duke of John, and they will have to adhere to him. She smiled mockingly. Is that so? Astra asked again. She got up and said, I came here with good intentions to give advice. Considering that you feel better, I think my unexpected appearance surprised you. So I will go. She turned to the servant and asked, Bring me my coat. Leon suddenly opened her eyes with surprise. Astro's coat was a blue rose. She smiled cunningly and said, Oh, this brooch. Blue roses are really beautiful, isn't it? It is a gift from the Duke of John. I don't know if you are aware, but blue roses grow only on this estate. Not everyone can own them. So I mistakenly believed that I got a sincere sense of the Duke. Leonis sadly thought about what he really said. Astra whispered to herself, What gift? I made so much effort to find it. However, she was surprised outside. Tell me, what happened to you? Did this brooch affect you? She asked with seeming care. Are you okay, Miss Leono? Swicker, leaning to Leona's ear, she continued, Is Lady Rebecca not treat you like a mother? Leon asked. What? Suddenly, a nurse with a beard appeared behind the door. The nurse asked for some hesitation for the invasion. Sorry, ladies, can I spend a minute? Lady Riri woke up and looking for you. Atrafan smiled enthusiastically and exclaimed, Oh, well, it's things. In this case, I need to hurry back. She continued, It was nice to chat with you, Lady Leonon. I hope we will meet yet. She smiled treacherously. She turned and left, leaving the owner lost in her thoughts. The nurse, noticing it, asked, Lady, are you okay? Do you look worried? Did the woman tell you something unpleasant again? Having come, Leon replied, No, everything is fine with me. And how about Riri? The nurse replied, Lady Riri thought you have disappeared again and now crying bitterly. I told her you were busy with a guest, but she didn't believe and continued to run in search of you. Leon replied, Of course. Let's get back faster, Leon thought with sadness. As it was supposed, Ian chose me as a duchess only because of the duty to Riri. The next morning, so much beautiful and sophisticated clothes, she exclaimed very surprised. Mom, What should we wear for a party? What kind of clothes will we fit us the best? The owner smiled and replied, all these things are for you, Riri. She suddenly thought, if you didn't need to wear a corset, it would be great. He so limits breathing. The nanny suddenly turned to her and said, my lady, don't worry. None of these dresses have corsets. Leon was surprised and asked, really? The nanny continued to choose dresses. Lucas was also close and even advised that my lady would like such things. What will you say about the style? I think he suits you, Lady Leono, Lucas said. Leon smiled and noted, Lucas is so attentive. Suddenly, Rui ran up, holding a few necklaces in his hands, and exclaimed, Mom, I think they fit you perfectly. Why not try them all? Leon smiled gently. Really? I do try them, how do you say? Riari continued, after all, you should look just charming at the party. Here is a necklace, you fit you like that. By the evening, Leonore exclaimed, oh my God, I'm just exhausted. Remembering earlier, Riri pulled her behind her. Mom, try this. In spite of fatigue, she smiled in response. We have already tried 10 outfits. Preparing for a party is serious. I feel like the whole body hurts. Looking at Riri, that she was sleeping sweetly, she thought, despite everything, today was truly wonderful. Looking at the clock, she realized that the dream would not come to her. So I decided to take a walk. In the garden at night, the bosom strolled when someone suddenly asked, don't sleep? She said in surprise, Luke? He stood in front of her. Luke smiled and said, I'm extremely happy to see you in a mansion again. Leon replied, I promised to visit you again, right? Luke asked. Lady Leon, your feelings for the Duke remain unchanged, isn't it? Leon replied, I think no. I am worried lately if I can stay with the Duke. She thought that their relationship had improved somewhat. Luke noted that it may seem like that, but the Duke thinks a lot about the lady. Leon replied that Luke always talks about the Duke. Why are you doing so? Is it out of pity? Recalling yesterday evening, she thought that thanks to the conversation with the beau, her mood had improved significantly. Luke replied, actually, since then the Duke is not at all as before. Leon asked in surprise, since then? Luke, as if remembering the past, said, from childhood, he did not know fear, and sometimes did incomprehensible things like irrational jealousy. Sometimes he behaved more childishly than Lady Riri himself. I do not know what the Duke looks in your eyes, Lady Leon, but you feel that you are the only one who is able to change it, Lady Leon. Luke said he had the feeling that only Lady Leon could affect the Duke. The scene changes. Silence prevails in the Duke's room. He sleeps firmly. In a dream, he whispers, no, don't go. In a dream, the Duke sees himself a boy. Father says, Iana, remember? You have no right to fall. The family has only you. Don't give it to anyone. After that, the father rotates and begins to go away. Ian, agitated, exclaims, Dad, Mom, ask, do not go, do not leave me. Ian stretched forward, but his parents gradually disappeared. Suddenly, the girl pulled John back. The girl called John, but he couldn't remember her face. At that moment, the Duke woke up from surprise, shouting, Pee! He grabbed his head, cursing, damn takes away. This dream again. He wondered, who are these people? My father, mother, and someone else? Memories from childhood are confused. Squeezing his fist, he convinced himself, stay calm. Think about those you have to protect. The most important for me now are Riri and this family. I calmed down only after thinking about it. The next morning, Leon was tired because last night did not sleep. At that moment, Leon asked, why do you think so about me? Lucas smiled and replied, because in this estate only you see his true face. And the blue rose on the shirt has attracted attention. She wondered if she was the only one who was able to change it, but did not even realize his true feelings. Seeing her such exhausted, the maid asked if she could fall asleep yesterday, noting that she had a very tired look. She smiled and replied, all is well. Riri also just woke up. The girl continued, if possible, I would like you to rest a little, but you have a job today. Leon asked in surprise, work? Suddenly, the Duke opened the door and went, saying, you have already woken up. He was in surprise, seeing Leon in a nightgown. Leon turned to the Duke of John in surprise. asking what was happening so early in the morning. He replied, "I'm here to prepare for the banquet you arrange with Riri." Leon, overflowing with astonishment, asked, "What?" He put a stack of books that reached the height of the mountain and said, "I will pass all the preparation for the banquet." Looking because of the books, Leon asked, "What did you just say?" Leon, in surprise looking at the stack of books, could only expand her eyes with surprise. Riari approached and wondered if he was engaged in all concerning the feast. The Duke replied happily, "Yes, that's right." He continued, "Your mother will be responsible for everything, from the wine to be treated, to dress code, types and number of dishes, even to the color of the chandelier." The Duke with pleasure added that the Duchess was always organized by the organization of Petri family. "This post has been empty for some time, so we have not held a single event for a long time." The nanny happily noted that the Duke is truly worried about the Duchess. If it were not, he would not have entrusted her with all these responsibilities. Lion said in despair. Seeing this, the Duke gladly remarked, "Do not worry too much, because you have everyone who will help you." Looking at the Duke's hand, who was quietly lying on her shoulders, Leon thought what was happening. The Duke suddenly realized that his hand lies on the owner's shoulders. Fun. He quickly removed his hand. Surrounded by a bunch of scattered books, Lionel exclaimed, "My God, why should so much be solved? My head is about to explode." Seeing that she is exhausted, Richard ran, excitedly asked, "Mom, is it really difficult? Is it like when we counted numbers?" Leon tried to smile and replied, she thought, "He said that only the Duchess was organizing family activities. This may be the chance he gives me." The long seat tired of Leon. She felt stiff. After some effort, when he climbed from the chair, she heard the voice. "Lady Leon, this is me, Onion. Can you enter?" Leon, breathing heavily, replied, "Log in." The bow opens the door and enters, holding a high stack of books. Holdly welcomes, "Good morning, Lady Leon, miss." Riri asks in surprise, "Luco, what's the books?" Luco replies, "These are the materials related to the preparation for the party. The Duke asked me to come here to help Lady Leonie." Putting a high stack of books on the floor, Luke asks, "Lady Leono, do you feel bad? You look not very healthy." Leono smiles with pain and replies, "No, everything is fine with me." Seeing this, Varius asks, "Mom, are you sick?" Leon quickly assures, "No, everything is fine with me." But Riri is still shouting, "Mom, you can't get sick." The doctor hurries and asks, "Where do you have, miss?" Holding Riri by the hand, the doctor asks, "Do you have temperature?" "Coughing or perhaps convulsions." She answered calmly that she was not sick. The doctor, surprised, asked, "What?" Pointing to Leon, Riri said, "It's not me, it's Mom. She is sick." At that moment, Leon was sitting on the bed. A surprised doctor asked, "I was urgently called through a sick person. I thought it was a young lady." Speaking to Leon, he asked, "Mademoiselle, where do you have hurt?" Riari, with anxiety, pushed her to the answer. Luke replied, "Madame's face is pale." Maybe she was dizzy. Leon reassured, "I'm really fine," Riri said anxiously. "Mom always says everything is fine, but what if it's something serious? What will we do then?" The doctor sat down and tested the pulse of Leon. A moment later, the doctor said, "In addition to the slow pulse, everything is fine with Madame. She is probably just exhausted from accumulated fatigue. A good rest will help." Handing a Leonore bottle with medicines, the doctor said, "Please accept it." Leonore replied in surprise that she did not consider it necessary to take medicine, but the doctor explained that it was a tonic for restoration of strength. He added that he was about to send it because the Duke asked for it. Leon asked again, "Duke asked you?" The doctor replied, "Yes, the Duke recently gave me rare herbs and asked to prepare a tonic that is useful for your health." Leon was alert, thinking, "Suddenly it is poison." Very smiled, smiling, saying that finally his father realized how to take care of his mother properly. Leon smiled mockingly, asking, "Really?" Luke went to the doctor with the question, "What about the lady's illness?" "You have not yet found a decision." The doctor nervously replied, "Yes, the condition of the lady was very difficult for diagnosis. Therefore, however, I noticed that her condition has begun to improve lately. And this is without any special medicines. It's very strange. The doctor continued, passionately thinking about unexpected improvements. The doctor noted, "This is only my assumption, but it seems that Lady Leon somehow cured her." Leon was amazed by the doctor's words. After the examination, the doctor got up and said, "Well, I'll go." Looking at the doctor, Leon smiled gently because she felt much better. She remembered the doctor's words. Mrs. Rory's condition deteriorates when she is worried or overloaded with emotions. However, recently, spending more time with Lady Leon, Ms. Rory has become less likely to feel attacks, and her health has stabilized. Hearing this, Rory asked the doctor, "Do you want to say that my mom is for me as a medicine?" Leon smiled warmly and replied, "No, dear. The doctor implies that the key to your recovery seems to be stabilizing your emotions." Riri was surprised to ask how stabilization of emotions can help. Leon confirmed, "Yes, if you are happy, your recovery will go faster." The little girl exclaimed, "Really?" Luke, who all this time was silently watched, finally spoke. "I think it is not so easy, but one thing can be said for sure. The state of Riris has improved after Ms. Leona's return. Maybe that is what we find the key to the treatment of Miss Riris' chronic disease." Hearing this, Leon asked joyfully, "Really?" She was enthusiastically stated, "It seems news that your disease can be cured made me happier." "Mom, it's true? If I said it, you have to." Leon thought, "How good is that the news is comforting?" Getting out of bed, she said, "Well, let's get back to work." Riri denied, "No, you can't. You need to rest more." Leonis smiled. "I took the medicine, so I feel much better, dear." Suddenly, Luke put his hand on the shoulder of the hostess and said, "Madam, I also want you to rest well, but the party's day is approaching. You may have to deal with some things first. I'll show you some names and you will be able to choose one thing. Even lying, you can make your choice." "A tea? It sounds great," Oh, Luke exclaimed. Leon did not expect such. She suddenly exploded with joyful laughter. She said, "Okay, Oh, Luke, I trust you. Everyone is looking forward." Early in the morning, the maid and nanny came and greeted, "Good morning, ladies." Leon and Riri have not woke up yet. Seeing Leon, who has already woken up, the maid and the nanny said joyfully, "You will not sleep anymore. Today is finally the day of the holiday." Leon, surprised, asks the nanny, "Really?" Everyone gathered around to help get out of the owner's bed, shouting, "Madam, trust us. We will make you charming." Leon only said in surprise, "What?" The maids accompany Leon to the font, emphasizing, "Madam, we used aromatic essence with a more saturated aroma than usual." After that, everyone gives Leonie face mask and massage. The maids are kindly asked, "Madam, are you comfortable?" Leon replies, "Yes." After completing the care procedures, Leon was amazed when she looked in the mirror. She exclaimed, "Wow." Leon returned and almost forgot, asked, "Where's the Ruri?" Aunt replied, "Madam, don't worry. The nanny has already gone to wake her up." She barely said till Leon heard Ruri shouting, "I don't like it. I said no." Leon quickly jumped on her feet and shouted, "Ruri!" Suddenly the door opened and Leon, crying, called loudly, "Mom!" Leon asked worriedly, "Ruri, what happened?" The little girl rushed into her mother's arms and asked, "Mom, why are you here?" Ruri, tightly leaning on my mother's clothes, through tears, saying, "I woke up and never found you. I thought you left me again, so." Lion, with a broken heart, realized that Riri was scared, thinking that she had left her. The emotions of the child were not yet stable. Lion thought, "I turned out to be too careless." She leaned and gently said, "Riri, sorry. It's my fault." She lifted Riri, and the little girl said, "Mom, don't go. Without you, I don't even like parties." She reassured gently, "Okay, her mother will not go anywhere." The little girl wept and said, "When I fall asleep or wake up, I need to hold the rivers by my hand." She gently kissed the rivers in her forehead. Leon promised, "I will definitely hold your hand firmly." Suddenly, Ruri opened her eyes and asked, "Mom, what are you doing here?" Leon answered, "I'm getting ready for the holiday. Now you should also prepare." The girl said, "I will prepare with you, Mom." Leon smiled. "Okay, I'll listen to you." Shines so brightly. How charming it is. Everyone was delighted and sincerely shared their hobby. I am so excited. May began to comb her hair. May suddenly exclaimed, noticing a large scar on the owner's back. Leonie turned and asked, "What happened, May?" May hesitates if he will politely ask about the scar. So she just smiled and replied, "It's all right. This may be the reason for the answer because platinum hair is a rare phenomenon. I have never met people with that hair color." Oh, now, when to think about it, May thought. When I think of it, I feel that the aura of that person is very similar to yours. Then she added, "Besides that person, you are the first." To what Leon replied, "Really?" She thought that platinum hair was really a rarity in this world. In the family, no one has such hair. Is it just an accident without value? Suddenly May said, "But Our Lady's hair is both beautiful and shining." The breadwinner and Riri also agreed, and this caused the Leon to be a joyful laugh. "Thank you all." A moment later, May said, "The honorable lady, the young lady, everything was prepared." The mother and daughter were in the same blue dresses, both decorated as if two charming fairies. Leon leaned and released her hand with Riri's hand. "My beautiful daughter, let's go to a party." The little girl smiled brightly. "Yes, my beautiful mother." Leon took Riri by her hand, and they went to a party together. The scene is transferred to a luxury room where a man occupies a prominent place with a glass of wine in his hand. This man finds no other than the emperor himself. He is dissatisfied with frowning, feeling the headache of the uprising that flashes throughout the empire. "I made every effort to take this position," he says. The emperor gritted his teeth, thinking that it is necessary to strengthen the power of the royal family as soon as possible. "Is there a different way?" The emperor turned to the man nearby and asked, "When will we get a prophecy from God Amadot?" Next to the emperor stands the supreme priest. The supreme priest said that in anticipation of the decision of God, it is the right step, sir. Hearing this, the emperor became upset. The supreme priest continued, "I understand that it is concerned about your majesty. But in order to strengthen power, we have to provide heirs for the royal family, isn't it? What your majesty wants is also the will of the gods." The emperor smiled with a barely noticeable smile. Empress Mugli noted, "As expected from the supreme priest." The priest replied, "I would make every effort. Fortunately, my advice was useful for your majesty." Looking at a glass of wine, the emperor thought, "Why didn't I think about it before?" If it is so, the emperor gladly noted that the child will be the perfect candidate for this position. Thus, the letter from His Majesty of the Emperor was sent to the residence of the Duke of Petra. The Duke read the letter and was very concerned. On the day of the feast, the yard of the Duchigian residence was filled with carriages of noble lady. The guests gathered in full and discussed the news. Someone noted that this time, the Duchess came from a slight aristocratic kind. Others disregarded their tongues, emphasizing that the Duke's previous wives were also not different. Someone was surprised. Did the Duke marry the daughter of a fallen kind and staged such a feast? The other guest replied, "Did not it start with Lady Rebecca? From her birth?" Suddenly someone interrupted. "Be careful with words. If the Duke Petri hears it, it will be difficult to live." The other person continued, "But I'm right, isn't it?" As soon as Larry Petri died, a child appeared, which he called his daughter, but not even a son. At the door, someone stood and heard everything that the guest said. The guest continued, "Incredible." In the corridor, the Duke Petri views a letter from the emperor as suddenly a servant runs to him with important news. He rotates, immersed in his thoughts. The servant whispers to the Duke in his ear, telling what the guests say in the banquet hall. The Duke, when he heard it, frowns with irritation. Sighing quietly, he said, "I know." It is at this point that a blue dress appears. Leon and Riri arrived. A little girl exclaims happily, "Dad!" The beautiful Leon exclaims, "Duke, are you here? Did you wait a long time?" She asks, "Dad, what do you think? My mom looks good, right?" Duke looks in surprise without looking. The Duke was red with embarrassment. "Yes, it's fine," he admitted. Riri smiled cunningly. "Dad, you look cool too," Leon asked. "Maybe we will join the party now?" The Duke suddenly stopped her. No, before that. The Duke seriously stated, "Let's talk for a minute." In the Duke's room, they sat opposite each other. The Duke put a letter on the table, just sent by the Emperor, and said, "The royal family wrote to me. They want Riri to become a crown prince." Leon stunned. What? Crown princess? It looks like everything is following the initial scenario. Leon denied. She is only 5 years old. Why hurry? Did Riri knew about it? The distressed Duke replied, "Not yet, but it is definitely in favor of Riri and necessary for its safety." The Duke was thinking about how he still maintained good relations with the Emperor to refute the noble gossip about Riri's origin and prepare an indisputable position for her. And so, this moment has come. If she becomes a crown princess, no one will be able to harm her anymore. Leon says that it was so difficult for the father and daughter to find an understanding. And now it. Does this mean that we cannot avoid the original script? Leon suddenly becomes decisive, but I'm not sure. Duke is surprised. Why? Becoming a crown princess is the dream of every lady. In addition, in such a position, hardly anyone would have harnessed Riri. Leon asks. Leon continues. Becoming a crown princess, Riri does not receive security guarantees. In addition, you always do everything in your own way. Did you forget about the scandal that happened before? Leon strongly states, even if Riri wants it, I will still be against it. Since marriage to Crown Printer has caused Riri's death, we should avoid the repetition of the tragedy known to us. Despite the differences from the initial plot, we must eliminate all the factors that can lead to catastrophe. Leon is so indignant that it is sharply supplied. The Duke thinks in surprise. Honestly, I believed that she would agree, but did not expect such a strong resistance. Having thought for a moment, okay, I understood. Apparently, you had your reasons disagree. I'll think about it again. On the one hand, I felt relief. What experiences he avoided. The most important thing is that we both agree. Riri's happiness is important above all. She said, "Okay." Suddenly, "Your Majesty, lords and vassals want to greet you." The Duke replied, "Okay, let them go." The guests entered the hall, bowing with their hands crossed on their chest, and said, "For us, the honor to meet you, the Duke of Ian Petrie." The Duke said, "You probably already know why I invited you." He pointed to Leon. "This is Leon Petra, my future Duchess." Leon was welcome. "I am glad to get acquainted with you. My name is Leon." The guests seemed surprised. "That's how. For us, a real honor to meet a respectable lady." One of the guests said that the Duke had never represented his wife before, so it was a surprise for us. Another guest mentioned that Lady Leon would become a new Duchess, and this is really a reason to celebrate. Finally, we can calm down about the next generation. Isn't that a good event? The Duke thought, remembering the whispering of the guests at the holiday. The guests were talking noisy. One noted that they have not seen themselves for a long time. The other replied that it was true. Suddenly, the Duke exclaimed, "Enough! Stop these meaningless chats immediately. You are not here to remember the past." Leon whispered, "Larith Petrie. She is undoubtedly a biological mother, Riri, the one who has left this world." The guest answered calmly. "Since it has passed a lot of time from our last meeting, I accidentally raised these questions. I ask you, the Duke, to curb your anger." Leon, with an ironic smile, still said, "Interestingly, which family comes from the Duchess?" He heard that she was from the Avilda family, but it seems wrong. These words were caused by the Leon's excitement, and she stuttered, The Duke suddenly asked, "Does it matter?" His words were struck by guests. What? But to become part of Petra's family, the Duke coldly replied that the Duchess did not need support from her parents. What? I thought you like it. You always know how to answer, said the guest. Duke, how could you say that? We do everything for you, for the sake of family glory. Taking Leon by the hand, the Duke said, "Enjoying glory twice, you can destroy the whole family." The Duke leaned to the hand of the Cillians. Looking at Leon with tenderness, the Duke said, "Since the greetings are completed, let's go to the banquet hall." Taking the hostess by the hand, he went, leaving the guests behind. The Duke threw a few words in the afternoon. "This is a Duchess party. Feel at home." The guests were in surprise, their faces darkened like coal. They shouted without believing their eyes. The Duke accompanied Leonore to the banquet hall. The worried Leonore asked, "Are you sure you're okay?" The Duke calmly replied, "I am a duke. What may not be fine? Levon was still worried, but the Duke cheerfully assured, "Don't worry, everything is fine. Riri is already waiting for us. Let's go." Hearing this, Liana smiled happily, yes. They took their hands and entered the banquet hall. The Bogretsky solemnly announced, Duke Ian Petrie, Duchess Liana Petrie, and Lady Rebecca Petrie arrived. Everyone was silent and worshipped. Liana, covered by the excitement of all around, turned to the Duke with anxiety. "What do I do now? Duke, you do not need to change anything. Just stay yourself, because you are always sure of yourself, right?" Leon could not pick up words and only could say, her. At this time, Riri pulled her to herself, and her mother smiled. Raising his hand, the Duke solemnly announced that today's feast is held to officially inform that Leon Petrie would become the Duchess of Petrie's family. "Enjoy a party, all." Leon tried to smile. She was very nervous, but quietly reassured herself. "Be sure, it's me." In the banquet hall, soft music was quietly heard. The Duke gladly communicated with everyone. Leon, watching the distance, thought, as expected from the Duke, his communication manners with nobles are natural and casual. I need to learn how to behave in the same way. Leonid was worried. Will I really speak well? Riri pulled her by the hand. Mom, you have already congratulated everyone. Let's go dance. She shone with a bright smile. Yes, right. So how about dancing with you, Mom? Mother and daughter together on the dance floor. When they went down into the hall, everyone surrounded Leon, greeting her as a duchess, which was a surprise for her. Someone noted that there was an opportunity to communicate with the new duchess and Lady Rebecca. Leon began to sweat nervously. The person continued, noting that even if the duchess comes from a fallen kind, it does not matter. The Duke is deeply indifferent to the duchess, which is why this feast was organized. Isn't it? Everyone agrees. Riri, with fear, hid behind linen. The woman came closer. Whatever your nature is, lady remains lady. You have to match your status and have the proper qualities. To hide so, it is not suitable. Hiding behind linen, she looked around with anxiety. They seem to be ghosts that are mocking from us. Seeing this, Lena sharply asks, "What are you doing?" She is coldly continuing. "How did you dare to discuss the birth of a young lady in the presence of the Duchess? Didn't expect you to humiliate the origin of Lady Petrie, the legitimate heir to the Duke, who really does not meet the status of nobles." The guest asks, "What did you say?" But Leon, without fear, continues, "The Duke has already warned. Anyone who dares to talk about me or about the Duke's family will be a severe punishment." She confidently adds, "What? How did he say there?" "Ah, yes, something about cutting tongues." The guest is silent, covered with sweat and uncertain words. Leon seems to be calling, "Dukin, join us here immediately." It scares the guest so much that he shudders with fear. Guests, referring to the Duchess and Lady Rebecca, apologize. "Sorry, we are already going." And in a hurry, they leave the room. Leon, in her hearts, thought it would be a lesson for them. How did they dare to speak so lightly, with their worthless greetings? Riri pulled her in her hand and called, "Mom." The little girl smiled happily. "Mom, you are the best." "You're so cool." Leon leaned, raised Riri, and asked, "Really?" The girl replied, "Yes, but that's such an annoyance. I plan to take revenge for you," Leon gently said. "Then next time you can take revenge for me, okay?" A little girl nodded. "Yes, trust me, it will do, Riri." Suddenly, the music took up and exclaimed with delight, "Mom, this is our song." "So let's dance." Leon smiled. "Okay, we dance." Leon hugged Riri, and they were turning together in dance. A little girl shouted with a smile, feeling true happiness. Everyone in the hall also danced. Leon hesitated. "Is I dancing correctly?" "I have never done so before, so I know little." Riri replied, "Don't worry, Mom." "I don't know, but it doesn't matter because we are the main characters." Mother and daughter dance in the center of the hall. Riri confessed, "I feel incredible happiness now." Leon smiles, and the mother also, both crowded with happiness. Suddenly, Leon is touched for the dress and almost falls. The Duke appears on time to pick up both the mother and the daughter. He quietly clicks his tongue as if mocking. "Well, look only." Riri exclaims, "Dad, you also came to dance with my mom and with me, right?" Duke replies, "Dance together, say." Then let's all enjoy the moment together. Leon shilly intervenes. Wait a minute. Riri says happily, let's smile. Dancing 3, we feel true joy. Lion looks at the music machine. Suddenly, she exploded with joyful laughter. She always believed that she could not dance, but now she was endlessly happy from what could be with her friends. There were many beautiful and delicious cakes. Riri exclaimed what they are delicious, and the owner agreed, yes, to taste after dancing. Perfect. Leon laughed, wiping Riris's face. You're all in food. Duke wiped Leon's face with his own hand. You say it, but you have a bit left on your face, he said, forcing Leon to turn red. Thank you. The unexpected Leon asked the Duke, did you give Miss Astro blue roses? The Duke, surprised, asked, blue roses? What are you talking about? Lowering her head, Leon felt sad. What is the Duke in love with another? Suddenly, someone called the Duke of John. Mrs. Astra arrived. She said, I congratulate you on a new family, your light. I'm here on behalf of Avilda's family to give you a gift. Riari pointed to Aaron, mockingly shouting, oh, stupid Lady Jug actually here. It made Leon come to life. Astra was extremely angry. Puss? Holding her anger, Astra said, along with this welcoming gift, I pass the message from my father for the Duke Petri. We still keep with you friendly relationships that remain unchanged. Putting a glass with wine, the Duke asked, friendly relationships, yes? But before sending gifts, was it worth doing something else? Astra, surprised, asked, what do you mean? Duke coldly replied, didn't you intend to harm our family before? Have you forgotten about it? Do you worthy to apologize to my daughter, isn't it? Scared to the depths of my soul, I was delayed. The Duke said coldly, apologize to her immediately. Let's talk about everything else later. Riri strongly added, yes, this is true. You also ordered Lily and Ray to mock my mother. Apolly, you have to apologize immediately. Leon's mother now officially became the Duchess. You should apologize and sincerely recognize your mistake to everyone, because now the Aster is in an uncomfortable position. Astudano, why should I ask children to do it? What are you talking about, my lady? It swears quietly under the nose. The dam, if it continues, the situation will be complicated. She is still stubborn. I don't know where Lady Rebecca learned about these rumors, but Suddenly, Leon notices a blue rose on the chest of Astro's. The Duke, who watched the Leon closely, is interested in what she looks at. He was swept by a shock as if it were lightning, and his eyes were widely revealed. He saw a blue rose. He realized that everything is that way. Approaching Astra, leaving her in confusion, she asks, Duke M? It breaks the blue rose from her breast. Duke, angry, says, I was recently told that the little rat got into the garden. So the rat, Astra is amazed to open his mouth, but cannot pronounce a word. Leon was numb with surprise. So, she stole a blue rose. It was not the Duke of Ian who gave her a blue rose. The stone from the soul finally slept. Leon suddenly realized the changes in her heart and was surprised. What is it? Why do I feel such a relief? Astro muttered quietly under her nose. Damn. Throwing a disrespectful look at Leon, Astro thought, at least I have to endure this humiliation alone. At that moment, the servant brought a hot boiler, where the water raged from a boil, swept by Leon. Leon has inadvertently thought about Astromagia at this moment. The Duke hugged Leon and Raria firmly, pressing them to himself. The actions of the Aster almost led to the fact that the servant poured hot broth on the owner. Suddenly, the hot broth poured into the Astrat, forcing it to scream with pain. The servant and all other trembling are unable to say a single word. With an indifferent tone, he said, it turned into a pile. Astra was all soaked. It was hot chocolate. She clasped her teeth with anger. How do you laugh at humiliation with everyone? Suddenly, an Astrafade, Duke Ilar, broke into the room. What is happening here? With a sudden exclamation, fun. The Astrophaser broke. The Duke Ilar has anxious that he was not worried about a joke, leaving his daughter here. Ian said, the Duke of Ilder, I asked to calm down. I apologize, Mrs. Eusta. It was only the carelessness of the servant. I promise to teach them strictly in the future. Azra's eyes were burning like crazy. Callow, did it really have it crazy? Duchess did not consult with the servants to humiliate me? The surprised Leon asked, what do you say? Riri was angry. You, a scoundrel. My mother would never do so. Leon replied, I never did that. Why do I humiliate Lady Astra? Astra said with hatred. Because I almost became the Duchess and you wanted to humiliate me. Why are you doing so with me? She rushed forward, raising her hand, ready to hit Leon. The Duke grabbed the Astra in time, stopping it. Enough. Turning to Astra, the Duke asked, Yunko, what did you think about my family? Do you not seek to lose this hand? She was reminded of the angry eyes of the Duke of Petra as he held her hand firmly. What are your intentions about my family? Astra, angry, asked. What do you mean? Do you do it because of such a small person as she is? The Duke asked the Duke angrily, Are you in a hurry to death, isn't it? Astra's father quickly intervened. Yuki, please stop. But John, despite the request, replied coldly, Even if you are Lady Astra, I have my limits. After dropping it to the ground, Astro shouted and strongly stated, Leon, Duchess, you have no right to treat my wife so. If this is happening, I will consider this announcement. Astra's father denied. Duke Ian Petrie, why are you doing so? Suddenly, his eyes were wide open and he was wet with sweat. The snake seemed to squeeze his neck, causing unbearable pain. He wondered for a strange feeling. His body did not obey. Is it the power of the Duke Petrie? The Duke Petrie looked at him with passionate anger in his eyes. From fear, he was thrown into sweat. Did the rumors of the Duke have been true? The Duke of E and Petrie had mysterious force. Although the magicians have disappeared from this world for a long time, rumored that magic was passed on to generations, and Petrie was inherited. He once considered it a fiction created in his honor, but now realized that it was reality. In horror, he fell on his knees. I am deeply ashamed of my daughter. Be merciful and forgive us, he pleaded. Astro exclaimed, Father? He turned to his daughter and strictly ordered, Continue. He whispered, The situation is critical. It is better to temporarily remain silent. We need to get out of here now. The Duke Ian continued to look closely at him with cold eyes. After lunch in the corridor of the Duke Petrie's estate, Astra asked her father with a reluctance, Why did it suddenly become? Don't we try to improve everything? Not letting her agree, he struck her in the face and ordered to shut up. You used this thing, forcing us to scream. He was fierce. Do you imagine what will happen if you continue to put pressure? Your petty intrigues disgrace the whole family. I don't have a son like you. Handle myself. Astra felt pain, realizing that the father had every reason to be angry. From an early age, she has never managed to meet his expectations. Astra only replies, Yes, father. Such was the youth of Lady Astra. Astro, I no longer know what to do. What do you advise? Suddenly, Leon appeared and gently called Lady Astra. Lady Astra looked around with pain. Duchess, she is trapped. Why are you here? Came to laugh at me? Is there nothing interesting at the feast? Suddenly, Lion stretched Asteria a handkerchief, leaving her amazed. Leona gently said, I have already prepared a carriage. She is waiting for you at the gate. Ostrodraft is amazed. She is still stubborn. I can't believe. By the end, she tried to offend me. She also confessed that she had prepared it all. Duchess, don't even expect I thank her. She left these words. You are the owner of the party. Come back and enjoy it. Leon looked after her with sadness in her eyes. The Duke approached and asked, Leono, are you okay? It turns out that Leon was there earlier when Father Atra cooked her. Leon heard everything and saw he struck the Atra. Leon felt sympathy because Atra only sought parental recognition. Slightly tilting her head, Leon answered the Duke. Nothing. Let's go back to the banquet. They did not even realize that the Ostro has not left, but hid nearby. Hugging, they returned to the banquet hall. Seeing that Leon looks upset, Duke Viridly asked, Are you really fine? The owner smiled. Yes, it's okay. The Duke looked at Leon but remained restless. They entered the banquet hall and Rear shouted loudly, Mom! Dad! Riri hurried to hug Leon and asked, That stupid head is already gone? Leon gently replied, Yes, sorry that he left you alone. Very smiled gently and confidently. I was not alone. The servants were around. Now I'm strong and no longer afraid of loneliness. Suddenly, Riri addressed John with anxiety. But the Emperor acknowledged that I am your legal child? Yes? The Duke assured, "Of course you are my daughter." The girl continued, "So those who say that I am not from Petri's family offend the Emperor, considering him a liar. Are I wrong saying so?" The Duke was enraged. Who dreamed of saying that? Rare instantly pointed to a group of guests. They were. When my parents are not around, they afford such statements. Those people hurriedly explained that they were not lying, and that's true. Ms. Lareth suddenly passed. How do we determine whether the girl belongs to Petra or not? The Duke said, angry, "How dare you?" But Leon stopped him gently, turning to His Majesty. "The Emperor recognized it? You will decide not to obey?" Leon has continued wisely, despite the absence of His Majesty. The Duke of Petri also recognized it. Lady Rebecca is his daughter. What reason to deny it? No, even if you recognize what? The fact that Riri is the daughter of the Duke Petri and our daughter, it remains unchanged. The Duke was surprised to see that the owner was so brave and determined. She continued, "Don't say more fools. Often parents are a mirror in which children see an example to follow. What do children see in their parents today when they grow up?" Leon looked at little noble boys and girls nearby. Turning to their baby, the guests looked silently without saying a word. The Duke, widely opened his eyes with surprise, heard Very as she exclaimed, "Dad, Mom is so cool. Isn't you so?" The Duke smiled and agreed. "Yes, your mom is really wonderful." Henry reminded the attendees that the main purpose of this feast should not be ignored. Therefore, he solemnly announced that Leonikion was recognized as the Duchess of Petri. "It is an integral part of this house. In the future, if someone dares to question my choice of the Duchess, let them turn to me." The guests bowed in respectful silence, not dare to say a single word. Suddenly, Lion noticed something and turned her gaze to a certain direction. "These are the children who came to play with Rear last time." Two children exchanged views as if discussing something. Then both nodded as a sign of consent. The children approached Riri, addressing her as Lady Rebecca. Suddenly recognizing them, she exclaimed in surprise, "Didn't you laugh at me and my mother last time?" The girls hesitated for a moment, and then they said, "Congratulations, ladies. I am Riri, but how are your affairs?" "And I am a paradise." Riri turned away. "Did you come again to make problems?" Two girls bow. "As for last time, sorry for us, ladies. We acted so only because of adult guidelines. But to be honest, we really want to make friends with you, Mrs. Riri. Duchess and you, lady." Verid suddenly turned, looking at them, but the girl immediately replied that she does not like to be friends with those who consider herself higher than others. "Honestly, I sometimes behaved disobediently and considered myself the best, but I met someone who understood my true essence." Suddenly, Russia reached out and said, "Well," a surprise appeared in the faces of both girls. Very shone with a happy smile and said, "I also want to be your girlfriend." "Oh, Lady Rebecca." Both girls stunned. The girls were so glad that they were crying. They hugged Riari and thanked her sincerely. "Please take care of us, lady." Riari has cheerfully said, "Are we friends now, right?" Two girls gladly replied, "Yes, wonderful." Seeing the happy rear, both the Duke and the mistress with smiles on their faces joined this joy. The night in the estate. Leon was comfortable and exclaimed with relief. Finally, it was over. Sitting on a bed, Leon asked Riri, "Did you like a banquet today?" And she replied, "Yes, even more than expected. And I still had a great opportunity to boast my mom." Hugging Riri, Leon asked, "Really?" She thought, "I didn't expect to see her so happy." After lunch at the feast, Riri proudly told about her mother to two new friends. Leon has suddenly thought and said, "By the way, after the feast of the Duke, Ian disappeared suddenly. Does he think about work at that time?" Riri replied, "If it's a dad, then it seems to have been inviting the artist." Leon was surprised. "The artist?" Riri explained. "Yes, that is why we are so dressed." Suddenly, a voice came behind the door. "Leono, can you enter?" The artist began to rebuild the drawing room, and the owner's eyes were widely open. The Duke said, "Leono, sit on the couch." She was surprised, thinking, "But what do they think?" Hugging her, she exclaimed, "Mom, they are going to draw our portrait." Leono, in surprise, asked, "Portrait?" Riri Pudlion, having headed to the sofa, said, "Yes, a family portrait. With such a good mom and a charming baby, is not it a common thing to draw a portrait? Easy pushed by a confused Leon to the sofa, Riri said, Mom, sit here. Jumping to Leon on her knees, Riri said, That's how I will do it. Leon smiled and asked, Always next to my mother? The little girl replied, Yes. The Duke suddenly asked, Riri, what about your father? The girls marked Mr. Weissy and O. Wright. Their father is also part of the family. Pointing to an empty place near me, she said, Okay, I'm in a good mood, so let my father sit next to me. Turning to the Duke, Leon asked with interest, Why did you suddenly decide to order a portrait? The Duke replied with a smile, Well, now we are a family, so I want to have at least one family portrait. Is that strange? Leon was surprised because there was nothing strange about it. The artist suddenly asked, Can I start? If so, wait in your poses. Immediately hugged her parents stronger and said, Mom, Dad, become closer and do not move. Duke and Leon said with happy smiles, Okay, let's get closer to each other. Thus, the portrait of the Duke's family is completed. A happy family of 3 people is an image of everything that has happened. Our history is coming to an end here.